Unlike Marvel, DC hasn't really had the best time at the movies in the last 20-ish years, attempting but never really succeeding at getting a cinematic universe off the ground. In the past, I made a video looking at what the DCEU would look like if it was structured like the Infinity Saga, thus making it way better. However, even that wasn't perfect. For one, it was mostly based off of the DCEU, which had a lot more issues than just its structure. But also, it's modeled after a saga, the Infinity Saga, which isn't actually built for a complete comic book universe. What we got out of that was a saga that really only had like one Flash movie, no Green Lantern movies, no Teen Titans, Green Arrow kind of just placed in at the end, not getting a movie, and generally more limited than I'd like the DC universe to be. So in this video and in two follow-ups, I'll be detailing what could have been the absolute perfect DC cinematic universe, at least from my perspective. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to help me get to 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and let's begin. The reason this will be broken up into multiple parts is because there's a lot more specifics I need to delve into than the normal universe restructuring video. The movie's titles and stories are going to be either completely original or mixes of a few different projects. The castings will be from all across DC live action media, keeping in mind the ages of the actors in the year we will be in at that point. Basically, nothing about anything in this world will be consistent with any real world franchise, so explaining everything will take a little bit longer. This DC universe, which I will call the DC movie universe or the DCMU, begins in 2008, but even before that, things will be different. Everything released in the 20th century was released in this world, but as the turn of the century came about, things went a bit differently. Nothing live action that was released by DC in the 21st century, including both movies and TV shows, exists in this world, unless I specifically point out that it does. There's no Dark Knight trilogy, no Arrowverse, no DCEU, no Elseworlds, just one universe that every live action project takes place in. Also, if there's ever a movie that has a similar plot to an animated movie, then that animated movie also did not exist. Just so that live action movie doesn't come off as derivative, but every other animated project will exist. Instead of phases, there will be chapters. Chapter 1 of the first saga, which won't be getting a name yet, will begin in 2008, with 3 back-to-back releases featuring the first 3 Justice League founders to get live action movies: Superman, Batman, and Green Lantern. I know it would have made sense for it to be the Trinity, Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, but the actress who's going to be playing Wonder Woman in this universe would have been too young in 2008, and also Green Lantern did get a movie before Wonder Woman, so I think this is fine. The first of these will be a movie called The Batman, a movie that is sort of a combination of all the live-action Batman franchises of the 21st century. As you can already tell, it has the title of the Batman and also the costume of the Dark Knight. But it goes beyond that. There are a few options for who can play Batman, even in 2008. Robert Pattinson was definitely too young at the time, and none of the TV actors are good fits either because of age, not fitting the role at all, or simply not proving themselves to have star power. This leaves the only 2 options as Christian Bale and Ben Affleck, both really great actors with their strengths. But honestly, I don't think Bale would ever sign on to an entire cinematic universe, and Affleck fits the more fantastical type of Batman we need for a DC universe. Also, him starting at 35 rather than 43 gives him far more time as a bit of a younger Batman. As for the rest of the cast, Anne Hathaway plays Catwoman, Jeremy Irons plays Alfred, Gary Oldman plays James Gordon, and Morgan Freeman plays Lucius Fox. Like the real The Batman, this movie will skip Batman's origin and place us in year 2 as Batman transitions from more realistic mobsters to theatrical supervillains, while the story is very similar to that of The Dark Knight, including Harvey Dent, played by Aaron Eckhart, becoming Two-Face due to the actions of the Joker, who would be played by Heath Ledger but will appear again in this universe, and then he will be recast. There are many other big differences as well. I'd prefer for it to be directed by Matt Reeves instead of Christopher Nolan, so it's not too realistic. Gotham looks like how it does in The Batman. Batman does not become a public enemy in the end, and also Rachel Dawes just doesn't exist. She's replaced partially by Harvey's wife Gilda Dent, but also as Batman's love interest, she's replaced by Catwoman. Two-Face does still die here because I think his story peaks in his origin anyway. Batman will wear the Dark Knight suit to start off, but it will change over time. Affleck plays him, but characterization-wise, he's very different. His Bruce is more like Bale's, and this Batman absolutely does not kill and never will. Superman, Man of Steel will also be a bit of a mix between a few different Superman franchises. There are quite a few options for who could play Superman. Tyler Hoechlin would have been a bit too young at the time, and David Corenswet would have been way too young, but Henry Cavill, Brandon Routh, and even Tom Welling are all options. Honestly though, there is a clear choice here for me, and that's Brandon Routh, who unlike Cavill, who would have fit better as Batman, just has that Superman aura to him. The rest of the cast actually comes mostly from Smallville, including Erica Durance as Lois Lane, Michael Irons Ironside as Sam Lane, Aaron Ashmore as Jimmy Olsen, John Schneider as Jonathan Kent, and Annette O'Toole as Martha Kent, and a few from the DCEU like Lawrence Fishburne as Perry White, Russell Crowe as Jor-El, and Ayala Zurer as Lara Lor-Van. Aside from Routh, the only other thing I take from Superman Returns is the costume, which will also change over time. This Superman will be characterized the same as Tyler Hoechlin's, meaning Clark Kent is who he really is, while Superman is somehow both a friendly face and at times an imposing figure. Lois also falls in love with Clark rather than Superman because I just prefer that so much more. As for the story, it will be very similar to Man of Steel, although with a completely different tone, including being an origin story flashing back here and there to when Clark was a kid, and with Zod being the villain. But obviously this is not Man of Steel, it's not directed by Zack Snyder, he will have no part in this universe, but rather Joe Johnston. Everyone is characterized better, Clark and Lois have chemistry, the movie is more vibrant, Clark goes to work at the Daily Planet right at the beginning, the fights between Superman and Zod cause minimal damage, and Superman does not kill Zod, instead he banishes him to the Phantom Zone. As for Green Lantern, we literally do not have any other options. Only one actor has ever played Hal Jordan in live action, Ryan Reynolds. We could go for Kyle Chandler, who will play Hal in the DCU, but he was 43 in 2008, too old for a version of Hal who was just starting off. Honestly though, I think if the movie was better written and didn't look so gross, Ryan Reynolds would have been considered good casting, so we'll be taking Green Lantern back 3 years and somehow making it a lot better than it is. The rest of the cast is the same as the movie as well. I don't see any reason to change any of them. Green Lantern will be directed by Joseph Kosinski and will be an origin story based on Green Lantern's Secret Origin, which also came out in 2008. Jeff Johns simply would have written it for a movie rather than a comic, and it wouldn't be quite as obviously setting up Blackest Night. Hal's father dies in a plane crash when he's a kid. He grows up and is forbidden to become a pilot by his mother, but he joins the Air Force at 18. His mother refuses to talk to him because of it and then dies of cancer before they can reconcile. Hal gets dishonorably discharged after hitting a superior officer, but gets hired at Ferris Air as a test pilot. He and Carol Ferris become romantically involved right before Abin Sur comes crashing to Earth and then gives his ring to Hal. It turns out Abin Sur was attacked by someone named Atrocitus, who hates the Guardians for the destruction of his sector by their first attempt at peacekeepers, the Manhunters. So there's a lot of lore being explored here at this point through the perspective of Hal Jordan, who's being taught all of it. Atrocitus follows Abin Sur's trail and attacks Hal, but he's saved by the Green Lantern of the neighboring sector, 2813, Tomar Ray. Tomar and Hal defeat Atrocitus, Tomar takes him prisoner and brings both he and Hal to Oa. Atrocitus purposefully left behind and hid a powerful weapon called the Cosmic Divining Rod. Hal then arrives on Oa, is explained everything he needs to know about the Corps, and he's trained by Kilowog and Sinestro. Back on Earth, the Cosmic Rod is found by William Hand, played by Iwan Rion, a psychopath obsessed with death who is able to unleash the Rod's full power, which Atrocitus wasn't, and uses it to unleash his greatest fantasies, going on a killing spree that starts with his family. Meanwhile, Hal proves to be a quick study and a natural. He finishes his training and soon enough is sent back to Earth to operate as the Green Lantern of Sector 2814, but is also joined by Sinestro for a day or two as a sort of supervision. Hal reunites with Carol, who thought he had died, so there's some trauma there. Sinestro does freak people out, but this part of the movie takes place after Superman, so people do know about aliens now. Hal and Sinestro team up against Black Hand, who proves to be powerful enough to face them both. Hal proves himself by defeating Black Hand, ending in William's death, and Sinestro leaving Sector 2814 in the capable hands of Hal Jordan. A post-credit scene shows Sinestro returning to his world, revealed to be completely under his rule. 2009 sees the release of Aquaman, which will be a one-off and just about the exact same as the real Aquaman, including James Wan directing, except Jason Momoa and by extension Arthur Curry are 9 years younger and the Justice League do not exist. Mera is played by Elena Satine, who played her on Smallville, just so we could avoid any controversy. The rest of the cast is the same. There are a few characters in this movie who at this point in time did not exist yet in the comics, like Stephen Shin and Nereus, so they would just be cut out, but I think that's perfectly fine. Ocean Master is the villain and Black Manta is the secondary main villain, but there won't be another Aquaman movie. However, Black Manta will definitely return. 2010 is the year of the Trinity, starting off with a shared sequel between the Batman and Superman the Man of Steel called Batman and Superman World's Finest, which would be directed by by Brad Bird. Since the events of those two movies, which was 2 years ago, Clark and Lois have gotten very serious and Clark is preparing to propose. He's also gotten a brighter suit and become good friends with Jimmy Olsen. The movie actually starts off with him revealing his identity to Jimmy. On the other hand, since those events, the government, specifically Sam Lane and Amanda Waller, have grown afraid of aliens and has contracted a few companies to build anti-Superman weapons. Chief among them is LexCorp. Lex Luthor is played by Michael Rosenbaum and builds a line of supersuits that are meant to combat Superman. Secretly, however, Lex has used the bulk of the resources to clone Superman, successfully doing so. Around the same time, many mysterious murders prop up in Metropolis that seem impossible. Some witnesses claim that they were done by Superman, which is something that gets the attention of the owner of another one of those companies approached for that contract, but ultimately they denied it, which is Bruce Wayne. In the 2 years since the Batman has upgraded his suit and has faced off against a few iconic villains off screen like Mad Hatter, Mr. Zsasz, Calendar Man, and Firefly, but so far no one is superhuman. Metahumans in general will only be introduced in just a bit. Batman's investigation of LexCorp leads him to Metropolis where he meets Superman. They fight for like a minute, but Batman is clearly outmatched and only is able to stop the fight by calling Superman Clark. Superman then uses his X-ray vision to find out that Batman is Bruce Wayne. Batman investigated Superman separately and concluded that he could not have killed those people, while Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen separately also investigate these murders. Unbeknownst to them, Batman and Superman are doing the same, along the way bouncing off each other's drastically different personalities and approaches, by the end learning to respect the other and even learn to apply some of each other's methods to their own heroics. It turns out that Lex's plan all along was to frame Superman, sending the clone he created to kill an innocent person in front of witnesses before flying away, doing so fast enough that people can't see his slightly deformed face. At one point, Superman and Batman are led into a trap by Lex where they're seen with a lot of evidence and then framed for the murders, making them both fugitives of the law. The government pours even more money into LexCorp, which was a part of its plan, and he uses it to complete the exosuit drones. Lois and Jimmy eventually manage to uncover exonerating evidence, which also shows Lex's guilt, but until then, Superman and Batman are on the run from Lex and his army of drones. While Batman breaks into LexCorp, Superman approaches Lex, which is when he reveals that he didn't do any of this for the money, but rather to turn public perception against Superman because he hates him. Batman breaks into LexCorp to destroy all the exosuits, but instead he finds the clone, who turns out to be mentally handicapped and deformed. Bizarro attacks Batman, who just does his best to get away, while Lex attacks Superman with an army of exosuit drones, as well as one suit that he wears for himself. Before Bizarro can kill Batman, Batman luckily manages to find out Bizarro's shtick, that everything is backwards, which he uses to convince Bizarro that they are enemies, that Superman is also his enemy, and that Lex Luthor is his best friend. So Bizarro leaves Batman alone to go after Lex, while Superman and Batman team up to destroy the drones. Bizarro is about to kill Lex, but is stopped by Superman. It turns out Bizarro has been degrading mentally over time, but after these few turns of events, he degrades to a mindless monster who just fights Superman. Batman knocks out Lex and disables his suit, so he's taken out of the equation. Jimmy captures the Superman versus Bizarro fight on camera, which causes a bit more property damage. Batman tells Clark from afar that Bizarro is his opposite, so Superman takes this to mean that he'd be depowered by the yellow sun. To combat this, Lex gave him a red sun core inside of Bizarro's chest. Superman sees this, pulls this out, and depowers Bizarro. Bizarro then dies in Superman's arms, as his powers were the only thing keeping him alive. Lex is arrested, Superman is exonerated, Clark proposes to Lois and she says yes, and he invites Bruce to the wedding, but Bruce obviously declines. Back in the darkness of Gotham City, and in reaction to Clark and Lois getting engaged, Bruce is kinda hit by a wave of loneliness, and decides to go on a date with a woman who gave him her number recently. He calls a woman named Julie Madison, who excitingly agrees to the date, and even suggests that they go to this circus that recently came to town. Next up is Wonder Woman, which I waited until now to get around to because before this point, I think Gal Gadot would have been a bit too young, and even now is verging on too young as she's just 25. There are technically other options from canceled projects, but Gal Gadot is perfectly fine in the role. I see no reason to switch her with someone that we don't even know will be good. The rest of the cast remains the same as well, and I would also keep Patty Jenkins as director since she did do a good job, although she's clearly proved that she's not fit for the sequel, so she will will be replaced. This movie coming out in 2010 means that it predates the New 52, and therefore also predates her revamped origin that was adapted into the movie. So this Diana will be indeed made out of clay, bestowed to life by Zeus. Her costume will also have white stars on the skirt. Everything else could be the same, not that I loved all of it, but I mean, not every individual movie in this universe has to be perfect. So Ares is the main villain, and I guess played by the same actor, and Dr. Poison is the secondary main villain. In the end, following World War I and Steve's death, Diana returns to Themyscira with a longing to return to man's world, while the Wonder Woman fades into being a legend, one that will soon be revealed to the world to be very much real. 2011 begins with the release of Green Lantern Emerald Knights, also directed by Joseph Kosinski. This movie follows up on everything from the first. Since the events of Green Lantern, which was 3 years prior, Hal has spent the majority of his time in space, which has caused his relationship with Carol to become extremely fractured. Hal joins Sinestro to his home planet to help dispel an invasion by Despero, but soon learns that Sinestro has abused his power, having installed himself as supreme ruler of his home planet of Korrigar. They defeat Despero together, but Hal reports Sinestro to the Guardians, who strip him of his ring and banish him to a prison planet called Quard, located in another dimension known as the Antimatter Universe. Hal returns to Earth to repair his relationship with Carol, but even while there, is called away to stop a different villain named Sonar. Sinestro is approached by a mysterious shadowy figure. Far later, it'll be revealed to be the Anti-Monitor, but not for a very long time, who offers to help him get revenge on Hal Jordan and the Guardians of the Universe. The figure offers Sinestro the Weaponers of Quard, who help him create a Yellow Lantern ring powered by fear and to help him escape the Antimatter Universe. Meanwhile, the Guardians choose Sinestro's replacement for Sinestro's sector in Katma Tui. Using this ring, Sinestro sets out to get revenge on Hal, so he goes to Earth. Hal returns from defeating Sonar to find Carol captured by Sinestro. Sinestro and Hal fight, but Hal's weakness to yellow gets the better of him, and he loses. Sinestro doesn't kill Hal though. Instead, he kidnaps Carol Ferris and then uses her as a hostage, bargaining her life to force Hal to release Parallax from the central power battery on Oa. Parallax is revealed to be the entity of fear imprisoned in the central power battery, which is what gave the Green Lanterns a weakness to yellow, something that is very much focused on in this movie. Hal unleashes Parallax, who in turn possesses him. Parallax attacks the Green Lantern Corps and even kills Tomar Ray. Sinestro takes Carol to Korrigar, where he reinstalls his regime, easily defeating the inexperienced Katma Tui and then imprisoning her. Sinestro leaves for Oa, following which the resistance on Korrigar helps Carol and Katma Tui escape. Sinestro shows up to gloat. Katma Tui brings Carol to Hal Jordan, who manages to get through to him, expelling Parallax from his body. Now without a host, Parallax is defeated by the entire Green Lantern Corps, while Sinestro takes the opportunity to escape. This time Parallax is imprisoned somewhere else, not in the central power battery. On the way back to Earth, Hal and Carol talk about their relationship and are both about to agree to try to make it work, as they are then intercepted by a woman named Miri Riam, who has a pink lantern ring. Carol Ferris is recruited into the Star Sapphires due to that big act of love that expelled Parallax. Both Hal and Carol then acknowledge that this is the end of their relationship. On the theme of love though, two Guardians, Ganthet and Sade, fell in love with each other during this movie, which is strictly forbidden, so as a consequence were kicked out of the Guardians. They set out to form their own corps. Comic readers will know that that will be the Blue Lantern Corps. Batman the Brave and the Bold follows up on World's Finest by introducing Dick Grayson, aka Robin, who is going to be 13 years old in this movie, debuting very young and also young enough so that in the future he could still be a member of the Teen Titans. As for the actor, there's only one true candidate, Brenton Thwaites, but he was 21 in 2011, which is just too old. Instead, I'll be doing something that I'm going to have to do for a lot of the Teen Titans fan casts. Dick will be played by Asa Butterfield, who would have been 13 during the filming of this movie and who was already an active actor during this time. Taking place exactly 1 year after The Night at the Circus, which we see in like a little bit of a montage, the movie begins with Batman being called to the GCPD by the Bat Signal, but arriving with Robin, which shocks Gordon. This is Robin's debut. The case they're given involves a murder with a riddle attached to it. A lot of the story will be similar to the Batman, but slightly less dark and with a lot of detective scenes being more so focused on Robin, who tries to prove himself to his mentor. Actually, for all intents and purposes, Robin is the main character of this movie. A Along the way, Batman and Robin also cross paths with the Penguin, who has taken over the criminal underworld with a large focus on the corruption within Gotham City, all very much like the Batman. However, a big difference is that the Riddler is played by Corey Michael Smith like he was on Gotham, while also wearing a more comic-accurate Riddler design. After deciphering riddles here and there which take them place to place and victim to victim, they soon learn that the next victim is going to be someone named Tony Zuko, who Dick learns is the man who killed his parents. Dick, however, proves his virtue by saving Zuko's life anyway. It's also very much focused on throughout the movie, mostly from Alfred's perspective, of how much more accustomed Dick is to this life, how much more well-adjusted he is compared to Batman. The ending of Riddler flooding Gotham also won't happen. The ending will be a lot more low-key. This Riddler will have a more clearly defined ego, as he's extremely proud of his intelligence. Much like in the Arkham games, Riddler reveals he discovered Batman's identity and threatens to tell everyone, but Batman and Robin see this as a bluff, since his ego wouldn't allow himself to turn something only he was able to figure out into public knowledge so that everyone knows. At some point near the end, Robin manages to outsmart Enigma. Exactly how isn't important, but this hits his ego so hard that it drives him mad, having been outsmarted by a 13-year-old boy. Not Batman, but Robin. His ego is shattered and he loses it, turning him into a more classic Riddler, right as he's sent to Arkham. The Flash, directed by Matthew Vaughn, stars Grant Gustin as an admittedly very young Barry Allen. Grant will have been just 20 when he films this movie, but it's not like we have any other better options. John Wesley Shipp is far too old and Ezra Miller is far too terrible, so this world's Barry Allen will simply have to be a young one. The rest of the cast includes Candice Patton as Iris West, Jesse L. Martin as Police Captain Daryl Fry, not Joe West, a character that does not exist, Patrick Sabinoy as Barry's supervisor David Singh, John Wesley Shipp as Henry Allen, and Michelle Harrison as Nora Allen. This movie tells Barry's origin, adapting the, as of that point, very recent comic The Flash Rebirth. In fact, that's one of the reasons, alongside Grant Gustin's age, that we are only now getting around to The Flash. That version of Barry's origin didn't exist until 2009, and they didn't finish revealing everything until January 2010, meaning for this to work, they will have to begin writing the script before that final issue of The Flash Rebirth, and fast-tracked production, all leading to a late 2011 release. And honestly, it's entirely possible, so why not? For maybe a bit of simplification, the story could also be considered a very condensed version of The Flash Season 1, showing a young Barry witnessing his mother's murder at the hands of a speedster in yellow. His father goes to prison for the murder, and Barry dedicates his life to proving his innocence, so he goes into forensic science. Thanks to his genius-level intellect, he managed to graduate high school at 16 and quickly entered a college which he recently graduated from. Now he's a newly employed 20-year-old forensic scientist at the Central City Police Department, where he works alongside his adopted father, Police Captain Daryl Fry. More of the same beats are told from there. The Central City wing of Star Lab's particle accelerator explodes in a thunderstorm, creating a lightning bolt that hits Barry in his lab. This would later be revealed to have been intentionally done by the head of Star Labs, a man named Harrison Wells, who soon revealed to be Eobard Thawne, having killed Nora because he failed to kill the child Barry, and thus being stuck in the past. A lot of elements that are the exact same as The Flash Season 1, others are definitely different. Barry's coma lasts just 1 month, and he tests his powers by himself, being quickly forced into action to save Central City from a group of criminals who got powers themselves, the Rogues. Meanwhile, Cub reporter Iris West investigates Star Labs on the hunch they sabotage the accelerator on purpose. Iris and Barry do not have a past together. During the movie, Barry visits his father in prison, gets his ass kicked by the Rogues, although they don't kill him because of their code, is reminded of the man in yellow when he sees his own reflection running past a lake, which prompts him to investigate Star Labs himself. Meeting Iris along the way, together they question Wells. Then, as Flash and Iris leave Star Labs, they're attacked by another speedster dressed in yellow, who absolutely destroys Barry and then leaves. Iris then finds the beaten Flash and takes him to her house to help him recover. There, she finds out his identity, and they actually also kiss for the first time. Flash then has a rematch with the Rogues. Now with full determination and a much better understanding of his abilities and more experience, Barry then learns how to phase, using this ability to defeat them, pushing his speed limit in the process, which prompts Thawne to show up again. He beats Barry up yet again, while also taunting him and revealing to him his identity. Then, Thawne leaves. Barry, talking to Iris, comes to realize there was another person that night, the man who saved his life, a speedster wearing red, initially assuming it was a different Flash and he was subconsciously inspired by him. This all leads to a final showdown where Thawne shows up yet again and drags Barry to some random park, then explaining to Barry that this is where Barry took his spotlight, where he exposed him to the world. Thawne unmasks himself to reveal Harrison Wells, explaining he killed Barry's mother as a way to get rid of the Flash after failing to kill the young Barry, which then did cause the Flash of the future to disappear. It's here that Barry learns about the time travel of it all. After all this time, Barry is now fast enough and has generated enough speed force that Thawne could finally kill him and return to his time. They fight and Barry is still outmatched, until finally their fight pushes Barry into the Speed Force, leaving Thawne behind. Seconds later, Barry returns in a new costume and much more power and defeats Thawne, revealing to Thawne that he just returned from the 25th century. We see in a montage that Barry was stuck there. He met the Flash of that time, learned he was faking crimes to be a hero, and exposed him before finding out that he is Eobard Thawne. Barry then manages to time travel back to the present, meaning everything Thawne has done for the past decade was all to lead up to causing his own demise, and that Barry disappeared in the past on purpose. After all this, Central City builds a prison for the metahumans called Iron Heights, where Thawne and the Rogues are held. Then, as thanks to their hero, Central City announces construction on a Flash museum. That brings us to the final year of Chapter 1, 2012, which starts with the movie the chapter was leading up to, Justice League, directed also by Brad Bird, like World's Finest was, and bringing together all the heroes of Chapter 1, while also introducing the Martian Manhunter, adapting the original Justice League founding members lineup. J'onn J'onzz is played by David Harewood, and his origin connects directly to the reason for the Justice League coming together. Like it was in the animated series, Mars is invaded by an army of robots led by Brainiac. Because the robots and the Martians have no mind to read, they were caught completely unawares. Brainiac wipes out the Green Martians and shrinks their biggest city to add to his collection. J'onn J'onzz, however, survives and manages to sneak aboard Brainiac's ship without being noticed, as Brainiac sets his sights on a new target: Earth. This version of Brainiac is played by Blake Ritson, like he was on Krypton, and is an organic being from Kolu who became obsessed with gaining knowledge. Soon, Hal Jordan becomes aware of the attack on Mars, but does arrive too late. Hal attacks Brainiac just outside of Mars's atmosphere, but is entirely overwhelmed. He's joined by the Martian Manhunter, but that still isn't enough. Hal decides to retreat back to Earth, taking J'onn with him. Brainiac is a little bit slower. He'll take a lot longer to get there. First, he asks for backup from the Corps, but none are available. Instead, he decides to recruit the heroes of Earth. While Brainiac sends drones to some of Earth's biggest cities, on Themyscira, Diana gets a vision of man's world, seeing that she is needed in a coming crisis. She leaves paradise once again. In Central City, Flash easily defeats Captain Boomerang before meeting Iris, who he has been dating for a year, who introduces him to her nephew Wally, played by the at the time 15-year-old KJ Apa. In Metropolis, Clark and Lois are planning their wedding when a Brainiac drone lands in the city center. Superman goes to investigate but is attacked by the drones. Back in Gotham, Batman and Robin defeat Killer Croc when a drone lands there as well. Unlike Superman, Batman and Robin are completely overwhelmed. That is, until Green Lantern and Martian Manhunter show up to recruit him, starting with Batman because of the legends surrounding him. Hal is shocked to find out that Batman is powerless. Hal, J'onn, Batman, and Robin destroy the robots and investigate the drone. Flash sees Superman's fight on the news and shows up to help, helping Superman to destroy all the robots. They then also investigate the drone. A drone also comes from Atlantis as well, also technically one of Earth's biggest cities. The robots are not quite equipped for underwater combat though, so Aquaman and a few other Atlanteans easily defeat them before learning of all the other drones. Aquaman then heads to the surface. While investigating the drones, Superman, Green Lantern, and Batman are all infected with nanotech that infects their minds, taking control of them and turning them against the other heroes. Superman chases the Flash, Hal and J'onn fight, while Robin tries his hardest to fend off Batman. The young and inexperienced Flash is not able to defend himself, but is instead saved by Wonder Woman. Together, Flash and Wonder Woman are very much able to stand up to Superman. Batman, however, manages to break through the programming as he was just about to kill Robin, while Hal's immense willpower is what saves him. Superman, however, was infected with double the nanobots, so he can't quite fight it off. When the heroes who are in Gotham find out about the fight between Flash and Wonder Woman and Superman in Metropolis, they decide to go join, while Robin stays behind in Gotham. J'onn joins the fight, while Batman takes Hal to Lois, bringing her to Superman to get him to break through the programming, which fully works. The heroes then compare notes. Superman, as it turns out, recognizes Brainiac, having learned from his AI father that while Krypton's destruction was inevitable, it was sped up by someone named Brainiac, who shrunk and bottled the city of Condor, which caused the already unstable planet Krypton to explode. Purposefully so, as Brainiac wants to collect all knowledge and make it so that no new knowledge can be created on each planet. With Brainiac on his way, the heroes decide to join forces to stop him. They are soon joined by Aquaman. The heroes decide the best course of action is a preemptive attack on Brainiac's ship. The Justice League, as I'll refer to them from now on, fly up to meet Brainiac halfway and infiltrate his ship. This turns out to have been Brainiac's plan all along, as the League are led into a trap. Brainiac let Jean live, and he let Jean aboard his ship, and then also implanted the idea in his mind to bring Earth's heroes to his ship, because he knew a full-on attack on Earth had an unacceptable 15% chance to end in his defeat, because of Earth's many heroes. As the League are trapped, Brainiac's ship finally makes it to Earth, and he unleashes a full-force invasion, targeting Metropolis as the city he plans to shrink. Brainiac failed to account for the magic of Aquaman's trident, which he uses to break them out of their trap. The League head to Metropolis to save the day, while Batman remains on the ship to look for something. Batman finds the bottled city of Kandor and races to get it to Brainiac. Superman takes Brainiac on one-on-one. Aquaman, Wonder Woman, and Jon Jones fight off an army of drones, while Hal and Barry try to destroy the machine Brainiac put around Metropolis to shrink it. But unfortunately, they all fail. Metropolis gets shrunk down with most of the heroes inside it, which also angers Superman to the point where he pushes his fight with Brainiac too far away from Batman to help, and Brainiac wins the fight, stabbing Superman with a kryptonite dagger. He flaunts Superman's dead body in front of the people of Earth. Brainiac has won. He got Metropolis and now sets out to destroy the rest of Earth, easily hacking into Earth's defenses and unleashing all of Earth's nukes back on Earth. As all hope seems lost, the Flash does something he was not able to do since the events of his movie, time travel, this time doing it a bit differently, rewinding time rather than going back in time. Barry rewinds time to the moment the Justice League came to Earth. Changing things up a bit, he takes temporary command, telling the League they don't need to defeat Brainiac, just distract him, but they're gonna need Superman to destroy the shrinking machine. This time, Superman and Flash go to destroy the machine. Green Lantern and Martian Manhunter fight Brainiac, while Wonder Woman and Aquaman fight the drones. Superman and Flash do destroy the machine and join in on the fight against the drones as well. Brainiac does overwhelm Hal and Jean, but then Batman shows up, releasing an army of tiny Kryptonians from Kandor on Brainiac, who infect him like a disease, destroying him from the inside. The Kandorians, however, are weakened by the kryptonite Brainiac was carrying, so they return to Kandor, now never able to leave again, or they will die. Unfortunately, Brainiac reroutes his consciousness into a clone of himself on a ship, leading into a little bit of a more simple fight. Brainiac and a mostly destroyed army of his drones facing off against these 7 members of the Justice League, complete with a team-up shot. The drones are all destroyed, Brainiac is defeated and captured rather than destroyed to prevent another rerouting. Superman takes the city of Kandor and all other shrunken cities to the Fortress of Solitude and promises to somehow find a way to enlarge them. The Justice League officially form and renovate Brainiac's ship a bit, changing the shape a bit, ridding it of any Brainiac memorabilia, and turning it into a base of operations they call the Watchtower for the newly founded Justice League. Superman and Lois get married, Diana decides to remain in Man's world, living in Washington, D.C., and working as the official ambassador to Themyscira. Martian Manhunter finally finds the time to grieve. Hal Jordan tells the Guardians about all the threats Earth has faced lately, convincing them that he could use some backup, and the Guardians agree, explaining that they're going to send a second Lantern ring to someone in Sector 2814. Flash returns to Central City to find out that Wally is in the hospital, having been hit by a bolt of lightning during the invasion. In the next Flash movie, it's going to be revealed that Barry rewinding time caused a bit of a disturbance in the Speed Force that unleashed a bit of Speed Force energy that was attracted to Iris West due to it being created by Barry, but Wally got in the way and got hit instead. The chapter is not over quite yet. The final movie, acting as a sort of epilogue to the chapter, is Green Arrow. Starring Stephen Amell, Green Arrow focuses entirely on Oliver's origin, setting itself apart from the other movies in this chapter by taking place entirely on an island. Taking main inspiration from Green Arrow Year 1, spoiled trust fund billionaire Oliver Queen's ship capsizes and he washes ashore a deserted island alongside his father. His father, however, soon dies. Oliver struggles to survive, slowly but surely breaking to the point of killing small animals to eat. He eventually decides to make a bow and arrow to use his archery skills he developed as a kid to hunt. Finally venturing out of the little spot in his island he was stuck in, he soon finds out that the island is not quite as deserted as he thought. There's an entire drug operation on this island led by a woman named China White. Oliver then meets a man named Scimitar, who reveals that the drugs made on this island are meant to fund a coup in his homeland of Latava and is led by a man named Count Warner Zeidel, or Count Vertigo. Scimitar teaches Oliver how to fight, while Oliver further practices his bow and arrow skills, proving to be an absolute natural. They do this with the goal of taking down the drug operation, except Oliver's real goal is to steal a boat or a plane and simply escape the island, even after Scimitar tells him that Vertigo plans to kill all of the slaves working on the drug operation after they no longer need them. Oliver and Scimitar infiltrate the drug operation, destroying some of it and coming into combat with China White and also Count Vertigo, who proved to be too formidable a threat as he has Vertigo-inducing powers. They take both of them hostage but kill Scimitar in front of Oliver, while Oliver they don't kill because they recognize as Oliver Queen, who they take captive with the goal of leveraging his life for more money to fund the coup. They take an unusual direction to keeping him captive, getting him addicted to the heroin they make. While China and Vertigo continue to plan out their next move, Oliver proves to be far more strong-willed than they expected, going through torturous withdrawal to break through the addiction. He puts together what he can to create a camouflage suit, creates a new bow and arrow, and tries again, this time taking a more stealthy approach to things. He kills every henchman, defeats China White in a fight, and finally makes his way to Count Vertigo. Vertigo uses his power against Oliver, but Oliver proves to have developed a resistance after having kicked his addiction. Vertigo offers Oliver a way off the island if he leaves them alone, but Oliver decides to put the lives of the others on the island ahead of his own and kills Vertigo. A few months later, a fishing boat floating near the island sees a big fire. Everyone is rescued, Oliver returns to Star City and reunites with his mother and decides to do in his city exactly what he did on the island, save innocents from the powerful men exploiting them. Oliver becomes the Green Arrow, starting his career, and this is his first night out, by stopping a mugging by a kid played by the at the time 15-year-old Jake Austin Walker. This kid is Roy Harper. And that is the end of part 1. Stay tuned for part 2. This video I'll be covering chapter 2, spanning the years 2013 to 2015 and containing 9 movies of its own. The first movie of 2013 and the beginning of chapter 2 is Swamp Thing, directed by James Mangold. It's a standalone film launching a series of R-rated Vertigo-based DC movies that eventually will culminate in Justice League Dark. The film exists in its own universe, separate from the Justice League, and serves as a reimagining of the 2019 Swamp Thing TV series with a more polished and cinematic approach. Andy Bean plays Alec Holland, while Swamp Thing is created using Derek Mears' voice and motion capture. Crystal Reed stars as Abby Arcane, and Henderson Wade plays her husband Matt Cable. The story centers on Abby Arcane as she investigates a deadly swamp-borne virus in Murray, Louisiana. Her work leads her to encounter Swamp Thing, a monstrous but sentient being who believes that he is Alec Holland, a scientist who nearly died in the swamp. Alec was conducting experiments involving plant regeneration in the swamp, but an accident caused him to drown. However, he was saved by a mystical force connected to what is known as the Green. Alex's consciousness was then transferred to the swamp, creating Swamp Thing. At some point in the movie, Swamp Thing discovers Alec's dead body, realizing that he is not Alec reborn, but a new entity created from Alec's essence. This shakes him to his core, but at the same time, he slowly bonds with Abby Arcane, who is then revealed to have been sent to the swamp by her father, Anton Arcane, who is played by Charles Dance, and is the avatar of the black, the force of death, and the opposite of the green, which is the force of life. None of this was known to Abby though. She was sent to the swamp by Anton to weaken and distract Swamp Thing, paving the way for the black to take over. Then, as Abby and Swamp Thing grow closer and even fall in love, she becomes aware of Anton's true intentions and sides with Swamp Thing. The climactic battle pits Swamp Thing against Anton, who uses his power to unleash devastation. Anton kills Matt Cable, Abby's husband, as a warning of what the black is capable of. However, Anton is not defeated in the end. Instead, he just retreats, leaving the eternal struggle between life and death unresolved. Swamp Thing reflects on the inevitability of death's victory, stating his mission is not to defeat the black, but to ensure life continues as long as possible. With her husband now dead, her father the avatar of the death, and having fallen in love with Swamp Thing, Abby decides to remain in the swamp. In a post-credit scene, John Constantine is seen, played by Matt Ryan, in a dingy apartment pouring whiskey and lighting a cigarette as he watches the news report about strange occurrences in Murray. This teases Constantine as the next chapter in the Vertigo universe, where Swamp Thing will also make an appearance. As I said, Swamp Thing would take place on another world, however that wouldn't be revealed until a bit later in the saga. The saga will now start jumping headfirst into the multiverse, however, with the second Flash movie titled The Flash of Two Worlds. Now would be a good time to say that the first 3 chapters of the DC movie universe will come together to form the Crisis Chronicles, which I changed from Saga because, I don't know, I like it better. I want it to be different from the MCU, and it's alliteration. The Flash of Two Worlds is directed by Matthew Vaughn, like its predecessor, and set a year after the events of Justice League. Like I mentioned in the previous video, this movie would reveal that Wally's transformation wasn't entirely accidental. Barry's time reversal during Brainiac's invasion caused a disturbance in the Speed Force that created a lightning bolt initially meant for Iris West, but Wally intercepted it. It'll later be revealed that other things were caused by this disturbance as well. Wally, now Kid Flash, is a natural superhero but noticeably slower than Barry. The story opens with Barry trying to bond with Wally, who has moved in with his aunt, to escape his abusive home. Their relationship as Flash and Kid Flash is strong, but their personal relationship isn't really. As Barry prepares to then reveal his identity to Wally, Central City is attacked by Dr. Alchemy. The Flashes confront him, and during the battle, the Speed Force energy from Barry and Wally reacts with Alchemy's stone, which will later be revealed to be known as the Philosopher's Stone, causing Barry to vibrate uncontrollably and then vanish. Barry finds himself in an alternate version of his city, which in this world is called Keystone City, and later it was revealed that he made his way to Earth 2, a retro-futuristic world with its own Flash, Jay Garrick, played by John Wesley Shipp, looking very similar to Barry's father. Jay is a 90-year-old veteran with 70 years of superhero experience, having been a member of the Justice Society of America during World War II, a team who all cameo in this movie but are kept in the shadows so as to not need to cast them just yet. Barry and Jay put their minds together to study the multiverse and find a way for Barry to return to Earth 1. However, they are being watched by Jay's longtime arch-enemy, Clifford DeVoe, aka The Thinker, played by Neil Sandylance. A montage shows Jay and DeVoe's decades-long rivalry. DeVoe, driven mad by a cloning process that kept him young, learns of the multiverse and devises a plan to trap the Flashes while opening a portal to Earth 1. He seeks the Philosopher's Stone, held by Earth 1's Dr. Alchemy, believing it holds the key to ultimate power. The stone is revealed to have originated on Earth 2, used by Earth 2's Dr. Alchemy, known as Curtis Engstrom, and is a Speed Force construct. The Thinker tried to steal it from Dr. Alchemy in the past, but never succeeded. And just like Wally getting powers, the stone is revealed to have been brought to Earth 1 due to Barry's Speed Force disturbance. While all of this is happening, Wally is the main character of his own side storyline, while he struggles to take on Dr. Alchemy and maintain order in Central City, which falls into chaos as other rogues take advantage of the Flash's absence. After struggling for a while, and with encouragement from his Aunt Iris, Wally steps up and defeats Dr. Alchemy, but the victory is short-lived, as it's just then that the Thinker steps through a portal and arrives, taking the stone and using its power to drain the abilities of all metahumans in the near area. Now godlike, DeVoe sets out to conquer Earth 1. Wally's Speed Force connection saves him from losing his powers because the Philosopher's Stone is also connected to the Speed Force, but he is still overwhelmed by DeVoe's power. On Earth 2, the Shade, played by Jonathan Cake, who initially helped DeVoe to capture the Flash, has a change of heart and frees Barry and Jay. Luckily, however, while they were captured, the two Flashes realized how they could get Barry back to Earth 1 by vibrating at Earth 1's natural frequency, which they both do, arriving just in time to save Wally from being killed by the Thinker. The final battle pits Barry, Wally, and Jay against the Thinker in an epic showdown. Wally, Jay, and Barry each have their little moments, and the battle ends with the destruction of the Philosopher's Stone and then DeVoe's death. The metahumans do, however, remain powerless and mostly retired. However, Captain Cold and Heatwave salvage parts of DeVoe's chair to create weapons for future use. Jay returns to Earth 2, but a link has now been established between the universes, allowing speedsters to travel freely. Barry reveals his identity to Wally, strengthening their bond, and reunites with Iris. In a post-credit scene, the multiverse ripple effects reach Earth 3, where Johnny Quick, played by Ezra Miller, receives a vision of his world's destruction. Bringing 2013 to an end is a movie known as The Trinity, which serves as a shared sequel to the Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, The World's Finest, and kind of the Justice League franchises, bringing back Superman, the Man of Steel's director, Joe Johnston, to direct. The movie begins in Gotham, where Batman has upgraded to his Batman v Superman suit and taken on a second sidekick, Batgirl, a determined 15-year-old played by Abigail Cohen, who forced her way into the Bat family. Robin is also 15 years old, and he and Batgirl share a flurry competitive dynamic. After defeating the Scarecrow, the Bat family investigates a mysterious crash in the Gotham River, discovering a pod bearing Superman's symbol. The pod opens to reveal a young blonde woman played by Melissa Benoist, who we will later learn is Kara Zor-El, Superman's cousin. She attacks the Bat Trio, but Batman evens the playing field by whipping out kryptonite. Then Superman arrives, calms Kara using Kryptonian speech, and takes her to the Fortress of Solitude, where Batman insists on accompanying them to investigate. Meanwhile, Wonder Woman is summoned to the Watchtower by the Martian Manhunter, told that her mother requested a meeting. Instead, when she gets to the meeting location, she's ambushed by the female Furies Bernadette, Lashina, Mad Harriet, Stampa, and Fury. It's close, but Diana is ultimately defeated and taken to Apocalypse. Fury is played by Naomi Scott, and it will be revealed to be a different important DC character later on. As Clark introduces Kara to his family and shows her Earth's beauty, Batman, remaining in the Fortress of Solitude with help from Jor-El, discovers that Kara's pod emits energy from what Jor-El knows as Apocalypse. Jor-El warns of Darkseid, played by Ray Porter, and the New Gods, just as Jean contacts Batman to reveal Diana's capture. Batman warns Clark, who is back in Smallville, which exposes Kara, who then attacks Superman with a Red Sun blaster, incapacitating him and taking him to Apocalypse. Later, it'll be revealed that she was supposed to do that the second she got there, but was too intrigued by Earth and the fact that her cousin lived there. En route to Apocalypse, Kara reveals to Clark that her ship got stuck in stasis and that she was rescued by Darkseid, becoming his loyal enforcer, and now is the leader of the female Furies. Kara reveals Darkseid's interest in Superman and Wonder Woman, who he perceives as Earth's strongest warriors, which is why he kidnapped both of them. After Superman was attacked and kidnapped, Batman decided to follow in a Kryptonian ship from the Fortress of Solitude, watching from the shadows as Superman and Diana are subjected to a device designed to simulate the anti-life equation on a micro scale, basically meant to strip them of their free will. Meanwhile, Kara wrestles with her experiences on Earth, which she enjoyed like a lot, and then she is torn between her bond with Clark and her loyalty to Darkseid. Batman struggles to, but does manage to take down a few parademon guards and frees Diana, but they are both attacked by Kara before they're able to free Superman. Diana and Batman face Kara until Superman, now mind-controlled, intervenes. Seeing Superman attack his allies shakes Diana's faith in Darkseid, prompting her to help Batman and Diana escape. Superman then battles Kara long enough for Batman's contingency plan to kick in. Batgirl, Robin, Aquaman, and the Martian Manhunter arrive with a Kryptonian ship and tech, including an anti-Superman suit for Batman. As the heroes regroup, Superman defeats Kara and delivers her to Darkseid, who sentences her to death for treason. Before her execution, however, the team intervenes. Aquaman, Martian Manhunter, Batgirl, and Robin all fight a bunch of parademons. Wonder Woman faces off against the Furies by herself again, this time locking in, and Batman fights Superman. Kara, meanwhile, regains her strength and escapes from her hold and joins the fight against Darkseid, who does easily overpower her and the team. Batman breaks through Superman's programming by reminding him of Kara's impending death, allowing Superman to recover and attack Darkseid. Wonder Woman defeats the female Furies but learns of Fury's true identity. She is Darkseid's daughter with an Amazonian named Magala. Diana convinces Fury to embrace her Themyscirian heritage and fight for Earth. After interrogating one of the female Furies, Batman locates Apocalypse's Hellspore armory, activating it to threaten the planet's destruction. Unlike in the real-world movie Superman, Batman, Apocalypse, Darkseid does call Batman's bluff, allowing for the triggering of the Hellspores, while Darkseid then diverts his forces to contain the destruction. The heroes escape, having dealt a huge blow to Darkseid and Apocalypse, setting them back by years. On the relatively long journey back to Earth, Kara bonds with Batgirl and Superman and prepares for life on Earth. Fury renames herself to Donna Troy, pledging loyalty to Diana and the Amazons, and even bonds a bit with Robin. The film then closes with Darkseid vowing vengeance, his forces scattered, but planning to return stronger than ever. Joseph Kosinski returns to the Green Lantern franchise, directing Green Lantern War of Light, which begins 2014 with an epic tale of intergalactic conflict. The film focuses on an experienced Hal Jordan, who has been a Green Lantern for 6 years now, as well as John Stewart, who was recruited shortly after the events of Justice League and now has a little bit under 2 years of experience. However, he is a bit older than Hal, so they have a bit of a unique dynamic where they are actually more so equals. The story picks up after Emerald Knights, revealing that Atrocitus escaped during Parallax's attack on Oa and has since formed the Red Lantern Corps, recruiting fearsome allies like Dexstar, a cat from Earth, as well as a few others. The Red Lantern Corps aren't really an entire corps, they're more so a squad than anything. Meanwhile, Ganthet and Sade, cast out of the Guardians, established the Blue Lantern Corps, which is also more of a squad, with members like Saint Walker, Brother Worth, and a few others, whose powers are mostly defensive but can amplify Green Lanterns in their vicinity. Alongside the Reds and Blues, you have the Star Sapphires introduced earlier, and the expanding Sinestro Corps, which is now the same size as the Green Lantern Corps, all set the stage for the War of Light, mostly based off of the Sinestro Corps War storyline, the film's central conflict. Back on Earth, Hal Jordan and John Stewart defeat Dr. Polaris before being summoned to Oa to address the growing threat of the Sinestro Corps. Sinestro has been working with the Weaponers of Ward and the shadowy figure from the last movie, revealed in this movie to be named Mobius, and shown fully, wearing his armor and voiced by a placeholder actor for now. They create dozens of yellow rings, recruiting killers from across the galaxy. And then, as political intrigue unfolds, Hal John and Katma Tui attempt to rally allies in the coming war. They failed to secure the full support of the Star Sapphires, gaining only Carol Ferris, while Sinestro allies with Atrocitus. Along the way, John and Katma fall in love. All of this comes together to build to a massive space battle between the Greens and Blues against the Yellows and Reds. The Green Lantern Corps struggles due to their no-kill rule, forcing the Guardians to rewrite the Book of Oa to authorize lethal force. This plays into Sinestro and Atrocitus' plans, albeit for completely different reasons. Atrocitus seeks to fulfill the Blackest Night prophecy, while Sinestro believes the Corps needs this evolution. Their conflicting goals lead to a falling out and a brutal duel, ending with Sinestro killing Atrocitus. Driven by his hatred for Sinestro, Hal Jordan attacks him in a fierce one-on-one battle that is evenly matched, until the Blue Lantern Saint Walker shows up to amplify Hal's powers, only to immediately be killed by Sinestro. Instead of flying off to find some new recruit, Saint's blue ring flies onto Hal, making him the first person to wield two rings at the same time, one green and one blue. With this amplified powers, Hal defeats Sinestro but cannot kill him due to the blue ring's influence, as that ring does still have the no authorized killing rule. Instead, Sinestro is sentenced to death on Oa, which is executed in dramatic fashion. But his yellow ring then flies off to find a new host in his daughter Saranik Natu, whom he had secretly prepared to lead his corps. Along the way, the battle costs the lives of major Green Lanterns, including Chip, Salak, Chaselon, and Katma Tui, intensifying John's hatred for Atrocitus, as in the movie they form a bit of a rivalry before Atrocitus is then killed by Sinestro. In the aftermath of the War of Light, Atrocitus got exactly what he wanted, setting the stage for the Blackest Night. Cutting to Earth, the grave of William Hand is shown, and his hand emerges from the ground. An end credit scene reveals the Guardians' preparation for the Blackest Night as they authorize a third lantern per sector, with the new ring flying off to recruit a mysterious new member on Earth. Shazam follows in Swamp Thing's footsteps, set in the alternate universe of Earth 5, and while it retains the basic plot of the real-world movie, it is also very, very different. The lead role of Shazam is recast because I think it wasn't really a great casting, with Tyler Hoechlin, who later proved his superhero chops as the relatively similar feeling character, Superman. Billy Batson, played by a younger Asher Angel, is 12 instead of 15, making him more of an actual child rather than a teenager. Mark Strong is replaced by John Cryer as the main villain, Dr. Savannah, to avoid actor overlap within the DCMU. The story would be set in Fawcett City rather than Philadelphia, because I like it when DC is fictional, and Billy's foster family is a lot smaller, including just Mary, who is 15, and Freddie, who is 11. Both of the actors who played them in the real-world movie will play them here as well, which works because they were both active in 2014 as actors. Their superhero forms are also more consistent with the comics. Billy is Captain Marvel, Mary is Mary Marvel, and Freddie is Captain Marvel Jr., and the only one of them who transforms into a different person is Billy. The movie would boast a much-needed higher budget and lead into brighter, more comic book-inspired aesthetics, creating an otherworldly feel. The tone is whimsical and vibrant, staying true to Shazam's roots, while allowing for greater immersion into the fantastical world of Earth 5, which I think tonally should be similar to the Raimi Spider-Man movies, which is why I actually think Sam Raimi would be the perfect person to direct this. The story and focus on Billy's mother, however, remains the same. Most things are kinda different. The second Green Arrow movie is also directed by Guy Ritchie and is called Green Arrow and Black Canary, shifting focus to Star City as the first took place entirely on the island, and beginning with Dinah Lance's origin. Orphaned as a teenager in Gotham City, Dinah is taken in by the League of Assassins and trained by Malcolm Merlyn, becoming one of their most skilled operatives. As an adult, she's played by Katie Lotz. She is sent on a mission to Central City in 2011. During the mission, the particle accelerator explodes, striking her while she screams, granting her powerful sonic abilities. The League of Assassins obviously views this as an opportunity for a strong weapon, but Dinah sees her powers as an opportunity to escape, alongside Merlyn. But once she finds out his plans for Star City, she sets out to stop him. In Star City, Dinah becomes a vigilante known as the Black Canary, specifically targeting Merlyn Global. Dinah intercepts an arms deal between Merlyn Global and Brick, a crime boss in Star City, which is where she meets Green Arrow and Arsenal. Arsenal, being Roy Harper, who was introduced at the end of the last movie, was then then taken in by Oliver and trained, and debuted around a year ago. They stop the arms deal, take down Brick, and then go their separate ways, but there is quick, obvious mutual attraction between Green Arrow and Black Canary. Meanwhile, since having returned to the island, Oliver has been trained by his mother to become the CEO of Queen Consolidated, which goes through during this movie, and that's where he meets Malcolm Merlyn. Dinah, meanwhile, hacks Merlyn's servers but then is ambushed by Green Arrow, who tracked her. After a fight, they are attacked by somebody known as the Dark Archer, who overwhelms them, but as it turns out, Arsenal was shadowing Oliver and managed to create a distraction to allow them to escape. Dinah escaping with a hard drive that she allows Oliver to look at as well, as they go back to Oliver's base of operations known as the Arrow Cave. The hard drive reveals Merlyn's plot, which is to destroy the Glades with an earthquake device, but also it implicates Oliver's parents. Oliver confronts his mother, who in that moment learns that he is the Green Arrow, and she says that she only goes through with Merlyn's plans because of the threats that she knows that he would go through with, because then she reveals to him that Merlyn sabotaged the Queen's Gambit, causing it to sink, causing Robert's death, and Oliver being stranded on the island. Merlyn, overhearing through a bug, accelerates his plan, with this now being personal for all three members of the newly formed Team Arrow. For Roy, it's because he's from the Glades. They go after him at Unidac Industries, where he's going to take the earthquake device from, but are ambushed by a few people who were hired by Merlyn, and although they are victorious, Merlyn gets away with the device. Having grown a bit of courage, Moira Queen tries to warn the people of the Glades during a press conference, but before she could get anything out, she is killed by an arrow by Malcolm Merlyn. At the funeral, Merlyn has the gall to show up. Oliver confronts him but is overpowered, and Merlyn tells him that it's all going down that night. Later on, Oliver realizes where the device might be in the Glades, as he remembers a friend of his named Tommy Merlyn, who died when he was a kid and whose mother died as well. Team Arrow finds Merlyn in an abandoned subway line right under the point where Tommy and his mother were killed, and a fight breaks out. The battle is intense. Dinah is unable to use her Sonic Scream as it risks setting off the device prematurely, so Merlyn is then able to fight all three on his own. This isn't a fight he was ever going to win, but he doesn't really need to. He just has to delay them long enough for the earthquake device to go off, which he successfully does. The ground begins to quake, buildings start to collapse a bit, and chaos spreads throughout the Glades. With time running out, Dinah pushes herself to her physical and emotional limit, unleashing easily the most powerful scream that she's ever attempted, which easily destroys the earthquake device, but leaving herself temporarily weakened. Seizing the moment, Merlyn tries to attack her, but Oliver confronts him one-on-one, and though battered and emotionally raw, Oliver manages to stab Merlyn through the heart with an arrow, ending the Dark Archer's threat. The trio narrowly escapes the collapsing subway tunnel, leaving Merlyn buried in the rubble. As the dust settles, the team emerges to find the Glades in ruins, with survivors struggling amidst the destruction. Roy then finds the body of a close friend of his, Sin, who died in the chaos. Dinah, now fully committed to the fight for Star City, decides to stay and partners with Oliver both as heroes and also romantically. In the post-credit scene, Green Arrow and Black Canary are approached by Hal Jordan, who offers them membership to the Justice League. That brings us to the final year of the chapter, 2015, starting with the second R-rated Vertigo movie, Constantine, this one directed by Guillermo del Toro. Constantine stars Matt Ryan and follows a similar story to the real-world movie of Constantine City of Demons. Set in LA, Constantine helps his old friend Chas Chandler, played by Charles Holford, to save his daughter Trish from a demon. Flashbacks reveal Constantine's origin. As a young man, he and Chas were in a band led by Alex Logue, who attempted a dark spell using his daughter Astra. Constantine summoned a demon named Nergal to save Astra, but Nergal dragged her to hell instead. In the present, Constantine and Chas discovered that it was Nergal who stole Trish's soul. They enlist Nightmare Nurse, played by Ruth Connell, to heal Trish, as well as Swamp Thing to confront Nergal. In order to gain Swamp Thing's help, Constantine promises him a conversation with the now deceased Alec Holland. However, Swamp Thing's involvement proves to not really matter much, as while there is a physical battle with Nergal, the climax proves to be deeply personal, and the physical battle never really meant anything. Chas sacrifices all the love in his life to save Trish, erasing his connections with everyone, including his own memories, just like the real-world Constantine City of Demons movie. The movie ends with the revelation that Constantine's secret attempt to rescue Astra sabotaged their chance for an easier solution, leaving Astra still in hell and Chas Chandler completely without the memory of his daughter and vice versa. An end credit scene shows Astra being rescued in hell by a mysterious yellow demon who calls himself Etrigan. Since the second Batman movie back in 2011, I've been setting up this movie, Teen Titans. Directed by John John Watts, the movie focuses on the Justice League sidekicks Robin, Kid Flash, Donna Troy, and Arsenal, who despite their different backgrounds unite to form a cohesive superhero team, while Robin, who is 16 years old, has already forged relationships with both Donna and Wally, which happened off screen. The remainder of the team meets for the first time at the Hall of Justice, under the brief guidance of Martian Manhunter, which is more of a tourist site just like it was in Young Justice, while the actual HQ is the Watchtower. Simultaneously, the 16-year-old Victor Stone, portrayed by Javon Wade, confronts his father Silas over missing his football game, only to find Garfield Logan, a 15-year-old green boy played by Ryan Potter, is being held captive as a part of Silas's secretive experiments. This confrontation leads to an accident in which Victor inadvertently triggers an explosion, disfiguring himself, which also allows Garfield to escape, doing so by transforming into a bird and flying away. This incident catches the Justice League system's attention, but with the actual Justice League preoccupied, the young heroes, disobeying direct orders, take it upon themselves to intervene, traveling to the spot where this occurred, Detroit. As the future Teen Titans arrive, Silas Stone reveals to them that he was working under duress and he was threatened by an organization known as Hive, who are intent to exploit Beast Boy's unique abilities to build a superpowered army. With Garfield now missing, the organization is sure to carry out its threats. Dick takes the lead, telling Wally to scout the city for the Beast Boy while the others remain behind to protect Silas, ensuring he has time to repair Victor using advanced Prometheum technology. Wally finds Beast Boy, but the two are ambushed by Hive agents Ravager and Jinx, resulting in Garfield's recapture, while Wally is simply knocked out, not kidnapped or even killed, so as not to incur the attention of the Justice League. Meanwhile, Shimmer, Mammoth, and Gizmo launch an assault on Star Labs. Despite being overwhelmed, the team buys enough time for Silas to complete Victor's transformation into an, as of now, simply alive but powerless cyborg before both he and Garfield are taken to Hive HQ. Luckily, Wally was thinking on his feet and placed a tracker on Ravager, a tracker that was given to him by his mentor, Barry Allen. The Titans regroup and track him, finding him in his home in civilian identity. They manage to easily defeat Ravager, who reveals Hive's HQ before succumbing to a fatal heart attack due to the overuse of his unstable powers, leaving Robin and Wally deeply shaken by their own involvement. Not so much Donna or Roy though. Pressing onwards, the team infiltrates Hive HQ in New York City, where Victor, now equipped with Hive-controlled cybernetics and weaponry, bonds with Garfield in captivity, who learns of Hive's leader Queen Bee and her deranged plan to weaponize his powers to create an army of sentient bees. The team arrives to rescue Gar and Victor and do just that as a battle breaks out between the two groups, with Victor assuming control over his cybernetics. The Titans are winning and things seem to be going a little bit too well, as the lights turn off and a mysterious figure massacres every single Hive agent, including all of the supervillains, leaving the Titans to find themselves amidst carnage they could neither predict nor prevent. However, with the immediate threat neutralized, the heroes establish their headquarters in New York City, dubbing it Titans Tower and dubbing themselves the Teen Titans. Most of the team moves in full time, though Robin and Kid Flash divide their time between the tower and their respective cities. As relationships develop, Roy develops a crush on Donna, Victor and Garfield become best friends, as do Dick and Wally, though Robin and Roy's relationship remains contentious due to the leadership tensions. Individually, Victor struggles to feel human and struggles with his relationship with his father. Beast Boy suffers from PTSD following his parents' death at the hands of Hive, revealed to happen right before the events of this movie, as well as the massacre, but both use humor to mask their pain. Roy struggles to feel a part of the team, Robin doesn't reveal his identity to the rest, and the team has a fragile structure, as its leader isn't always present. Meanwhile, it's revealed that the man who massacred the members of Hive was Slade Wilson, aka Deathstroke, a physically enhanced retired mercenary and father of Ravager, who was Grant Wilson, who was aware of his involvement with Hive and then blamed Hive for Grant Wilson's death, and so got his revenge. Meanwhile, Slade's ex-wife, Adeline Kane, investigates Grant Wilson's death and provides Slade with evidence implicating the Teen Titans. This revelation fuels Slade's vendetta, leading him to recruit two other children, Rose, played by Chelsea Zhang, and Joe, played by Lucas Till, to aid him in dismantling the team. Using psychological tactics, traps, and manipulation, as well as Joe's body possession powers, Deathstroke exploits the team's underlying fragility, eventually capturing every single member of the Titans aside from one, in order to lure Robin, the remaining member, into a one-on-one confrontation, threatening to kill his teammates if he brings reinforcements. In a pivotal moment, Robin comes to the realization that he can no longer split his time, so he seeks closure in Gotham by officially stepping out of Batman's shadow, committing fully to the Teen Titans. He confronts Slade, revealing his identity to the team in a show of trust, which inspires Joe to turn against his father. Jericho, who is Joe Wilson, faces off against Rose while Robin battles Deathstroke in a brutal fight. He is ultimately outmatched physically, but does prevail through strategic cunning, freeing his teammates in the process. Slade, in a desperate move and having gone a bit mad, kills his own son Joe to absorb his powers, making himself a greater threat and inadvertently pushing Rose to join the Titans. The final battle sees the team working together to defeat Deathstroke, with Joe's consciousness briefly inhabiting Rose's mind to release the stolen powers. His ultimate sacrifice leaves Slade broken, having killed his own son in pursuit of revenge for his other son's death. Slade is sent to prison, Rose decides to forge her own path rather than join the Titans, and Donna turns down Roy's advances, prompting his departure as he struggles to find his place. Wally follows Dick's lead to become a full-time Titan, abandoning Central City, solidifying the team's core membership of Robin, Kid Flash, Wonder Girl, Beast Boy, and Cyborg, almost the new Teen Titans. Speaking of, the two missing members are teased in individual end credit scenes. One introduces an alien princess played by Anya Taylor-Joy escaping captivity on a spaceship. The other features a demonic figure being told of his daughter being found in the land of Azarath. Finally for this chapter is Justice League Doom, which will be the third and final movie in this universe directed by Brad Bird and shares its name with and has a similar story to the real-world animated movie that in this world will not exist. The Justice League is at its peak. The lineup is expansive, including Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Hal Jordan, now the Blue and Green Lantern, Aquaman, Martian Manhunter, and the heroes recruited during Chapter 2, Green Arrow, Black Canary, Supergirl, and Jon Stewart. To combat the League, with a motive that will be explained later, Lex Luthor rallies a formidable Legion of Doom, consisting of returning villains Black Manta, Captain Cold, and Heatwave, joined by a few newcomers, including Tom Hardy as Bane, a mysterious figure with a vendetta against Batman, Alan Tudyk voicing Clayface, an old enemy of Batman's, Sophie Boutella as the Cheetah, an old friend of Diana's who was cursed to become a cheetah which surprises Diana, Jeremy Davies as Dr. Destiny, an insane man with the power to enter and manipulate dreams, who was first defeated off-screen by Green Lantern, Phil Lamar as Malefic, John's long-lost brother who he thought dead alongside the rest of the Martians, Idris Elba as Bloodsport, who has not yet met Superman, is just hired by Lex Luthor, as well as Max Middleman voicing Atomic Skull, who is indeed an old enemy of Superman's. Finally are Daniel Panabaker as Killer Frost and Dylan Neal as Anthony Ivo, hired by Luthor to create Amazo. Unbeknownst to the League, Batman has put together contingency plans in case they all go rogue. Only maybe Superman knows about it, or at least he only thinks he knows about it, because of the kryptonite that Batman had in Trinity. Unfortunately, these plans are all stolen by Luthor and the Legion of Doom, who plans to use them to destroy the League. Luthor coordinates a full-on assault, deploying each member of the Legion to exploit Batman's plans. Superman is shot with a kryptonite bullet by Bloodsport. Meanwhile, Supergirl faces off against Killer Frost and Atomic Skull, who exploit her Red Sun vulnerability. She's weakened and captured. Flash is tricked by the Rogues into wearing a device that will detonate if he stops running. To evade it, he vibrates to another universe while leaving the device behind. While on this other universe, he meets a hero named Blue Beetle, before then returning. Then, while vibrating back, Barry receives a vision of a coming crisis, showing Earths across the multiverse being destroyed. Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart are attacked by Dr. Destiny, who manipulates their dreams to purposely give them PTSD and survivor's guilt from the Sinestro War. This disables their will, rendering their Green Lantern rings ineffective. However, this has no effect on Hal's hope, so his Blue Lantern ring still works perfectly, and he uses it to escape with John. Near Atlantis, Aquaman is poisoned by Black Manta with a neurotoxin that makes him fear water. He's then kidnapped, but secretly tracked by Mera. Martian Manhunter is ambushed by Malefic, his long-lost brother. Using psychic powers, Malefic traps John into an illusion of being eternally ablaze, rendering him immobile, which he was able to do because he was caught off guard by his brother being alive. Batman faces Bane, who shatters his back after a brutal fight. Bane, then satisfied with his victory, departs the Legion of Doom. Green Arrow and Black Canary face Clayface, who captures Canary while leaving Green Arrow helpless. Batman did not have a plan for Arrow, as he just thought he didn't really need one. Wonder Woman is lured into a hallucination by Cheetah, forcing her into endless combat, and though it initially incapacitates her, Diana's sheer willpower helps her resist long enough to recover partially. She never really gets exhausted. The captured heroes, Supergirl, Aquaman, Black Canary, and the Martian Manhunter, are taken to Anthony Ivo, who copies their abilities into his android, Amazo. Oliver, Hal, John, and Mera all separately track down the Legion's base of operations, while the Flash performs critical rescues, removing the kryptonite bullet from Superman with his phasing ability, building a suit designed by Batman to help Batman to fight, and delivering Wonder Woman to Themyscira for healing. This series of events leaves Barry exhausted, which proves to have been Lex's plan. Lex takes advantage of this and, alongside the Rogues, defeats and captures Flash to copy his abilities as well into Amazo. The Legion are about to kill the heroes, but are stopped by Arrow, Mera, as well as the Lanterns, who came up with a bit of a strategy, as while their will still doesn't really work very well, Hal's blue ring is able to power up John's green ring into about half power, so while they are a lot less powerful than usual, they are still useful. battle. Oliver frees Barry, who then frees the others, and a fight breaks out. And just then, the Trinity arrives. Superman battles Lex in his armored suit, Jean faces off against his brother, Diana overcomes the Cheetah, Batman takes down Clayface, Green Arrow defeats Bloodsport, Black Canary defeats Killer Frost, Flash defeats both Cold and Heatwave, Aquaman takes down Manta while Mera defeats Atomic Skull, Hal and John team up against Dr. Destiny, and it seems like the Justice League is doing really well until the real threat emerges as Amazo awakens. Supergirl takes him on by herself before being joined by each hero after they defeat their respective enemies. Amazo, with the powers of the Justice League, proves unstoppable. He battles all the heroes simultaneously, his naivete about his purpose driving him into conflict just like the DCAU version. Lex attempts to control Amazo, but the android grows self-aware. Green Arrow threatens Ivo, who tells him that Amazo copied weaknesses as well. Oliver gets kryptonite from Batman, fashions an arrow, and shoots Amazo. However, this proves completely ineffective due to Amazo's other powers. He just phases through it. Amazo goes to kill Oliver but uses his Martian mind reading to find out that he was betrayed by his creator. Amazo turns on Ivo and kills him. Before, Amazo is then overwhelmed by reading everyone's thoughts and is taken aback by the thoughts of the remaining Legion members, so he turns on them. Amazo then kills Malefic first. He was John's enemy, but also his brother and the only other remaining Martian as far as John knows. So Malefic's death pushes John to do something that Martians are mostly forbidden from doing. He attacks Amazo with a powerful psychic assault that erases his mind, leaving the android an empty husk without any powers. Throughout this movie, we would see Lex's motivation being explored. We'd learn earlier that he was contacted by an alien being called Ulthun and forced into destroying the Justice League so that Ulthun could take over the world uncontested, promising Luthor that he could be his second in command. Lex, of course, turns on Ulthun, creating a plan of his own to destroy both the League and create an android capable of fighting off Ulthun. I'm saying it now at the end, but it wouldn't be a third act reveal. We'd see it playing out throughout the movie. Now that Amazo is destroyed, Luthor has failed in that endeavor, and Ulthun sees the opportunity of the exhausted League and defeated Legion of Doom as an opportunity to attack. Joined by Lex, the League face off against a big red tornado monster to save the world, in which both Hal and John fully regain their powers. The powerless heroes Batman and Green Arrow do prove pointless in this fight, and instead turn their attention to the android, rebooting him and easing him into things this time. When the android asks who he is, they come up with the name John Smith off the dome. Inspired by the powerless heroes' fight, the android agrees to help them, so they then fly him up to Ulthun using a bat ship. The android copies Ulthun's power for himself. Process that, since the reboot proved too taxing, and so it disables his ability to copy powers going forward. It also turns him red. Joined by the android with the power of Ulthun, the Justice League destroy him, saving the day and adding a new member to the ranks. The rebooted version of Amazo has a completely different perspective on things, is inspired to become a hero, redesigns himself based off of a few other heroes, and calls himself Red Tornado. The League has a new powerful member, but loses several others. Martian Manager leaves to search for other surviving Martians on Mars, Aquaman retires to spend his full time on Atlantis, The Flash decides to study the multiverse, and the remaining members hold a vote for Batman after the revelation of his contingency plans. But before he could hear the result, he quits anyway. Not just that, with a broken back, Batman quits vigilantism entirely, and instead searches for a replacement. The League now consists of Superman, Wonder Woman, Hal Jordan, Jon Stewart, Supergirl, Green Arrow, Black Canary, and Red Tornado, but searches for new recruits and come with the likes of Adam Metamorpho, Elongated Man, and the third human recruit to the Green Lantern Corps who is now in training, Guy Gardner, who are all teased to be joining the Justice League soon, but we don't see actors for them yet. But with Flash's warning of a coming crisis, they were going to need to expand their ranks. Speaking of, the end credit scene reveals that Ulthun was actually sent by a being called the Monitor, played by LaMonica Garrett, as a test for the heroes of Earth-1. The Monitor is seen with a blonde woman who comic readers would recognize as Harbinger. Starting with this chapter, the DC would also start airing different TV shows that are loosely connected to the DCU as they all take place on different universes, but eventually will cross over a bit, maybe with a cameo here and there, to what this is all leading up to. These TV shows include Doom Patrol, which is basically just the real-life show just without Cyborg. It would start airing in 2013 and have 4 seasons airing until 2018. But it would later be revealed that Doom Patrol takes place on Earth 13, which is the Vertigo universe. The Vertigo universe would get a second second TV show known as The Sandman, which would be just like the real-life Sandman movie, except for Lucifer being played by Tom Ellis, who played Lucifer in the Lucifer TV show, and it connecting a bit to Swamp Thing, as the actor who played Matt Cable there would then show up here as the Raven. John Constantine would also not be involved. The Sandman would start airing in 2015 and continue going until whenever they finished the graphic novel. It's just that from a certain point, it would start taking place in the post-crisis world we'll get to. There would then be a few different shows that take place in its own contained universe known as Earth 14, which would then have a role in the crisis to come. Those shows are a Black Lightning show, which could be similar but maybe a bit better than the real-life live-action show. Black Lightning would start airing in 2014 and have 4 seasons airing until 2019. A Firestorm show starring Robbie Amell and Victor Garber, and just like Black Lightning would start airing in 2014 and go until 2019 with 4 seasons. There would then be a Vixen TV show starring Maisie Richardson Sellers that starts airing in 2016 and has 3 seasons, as well as a Hawk and Dove show starring Alan Ritchson and Minka Kelly, and would have 2 seasons as it starts airing in 2016 but ends in 2018. Finally, Booster Gold starring Eric Martsolf, which would seem like it takes place in the future of Earth 1, but it's later revealed that every possible future is its own separate universe, and this takes place on Earth 24. And so that's it for Chapter 2, as well as a bit of Chapter 3 if you count the later seasons of the TV show. The last video ended Chapter 2 in 2015. This video will cover the 3rd chapter of the DCMU and the final chapter of the Crisis Chronicles, which starts in 2016, and we'll be diving headfirst into the multiverse, as none of the 3 movies releasing in this year take place on Earth 1. DC has breaches into the multiverse to deal with, but you might have data breaches online that could be just as scary. Enter Aura, the sponsor of today's video, for which you can get a 14-day free trial while at the same time also supporting this channel. But what exactly do they do? Well, every day big companies with poor security are getting hacked, leading to your personal information being sold on the dark web, leading to you being targeted by scammers and identity thieves. By using Aura, you can make sure that your information will stop showing up on these sites within a few weeks. They do this by identifying data stealers who are selling my information, submit opt-out requests on my behalf, and then continue to scour the dark web to alert me if they find my personal information exposed. They also let me know if anyone tries to access my bank account using this information, and then even if something does happen, Aura comes with up to $5 million in identity theft insurance. And if all that wasn't enough, Aura also doubles as a VPN service with 100+ locations, so if something isn't on Netflix in your country, just switch to another. Does your VPN have all those other features too? Quickly pause the video and go to aura.com/theblacklion for a 14-day free trial, which is enough time for Aura to find out if any of your personal information was exposed. I genuinely cannot recommend it enough. The first movie in this chapter is Justice Society of America, directed by Steven Spielberg, and acting as a spin-off to The Flash of Two Worlds. Set on Earth 2, the film expands on the history of this world. Jay Garrick, who was active during World War II, was once a member of the now defunct Justice Society of America, who appeared briefly in the shadows in their previous appearance, but now in the first few minutes of this movie are shown fully. The original JSA lineup included Wesley Dodds, aka Sandman, who is now retired and doesn't appear with an actor since he's fully covered up, Henry Haywood, aka Commander Steele, played by Matthew McCall, who is now deceased, Ted Grant, aka Wildcat, played by Brian Staff, who is now retired, L. Pratt, aka The Atom, actorless in his prime, played by Henry Winkler in the present and now retired, Rex Tyler, aka Hourman, played by Lou Ferrigno Jr. and now deceased. There's obviously Jay Garrick, aka The Flash, played by a de-aged John Wesley Shipp, who retired in the 50s but re-emerged in the 90s. A big reveal is that this version of the JSA had its own version of Wonder Woman, played by a de-aged Linda Carter then, and now in the present day played by the regular Linda Carter. Not just that, but this movie also retcons a few old TV shows and movies to take place on Earth 2, the first of which is the 70s Wonder Woman show. Then there's Ken Nelson, aka Dr. Fate, who's actorless in the past and played by Pierce Brosnan in the present, still alive, because when in the Tower of Fate, he does not age. Then there's Alan Scott, aka Green Lantern, who in the past is played by a de-aged Carrie Elwes, and in the present, just a regular Carrie Elwes, slowed aging due to magic. Then there's Hawkman and Hawkgirl, specifically the Thanagarians, Qatar Hall, and Shayera Hall, played by Fall Kenchel and Kiara Renee, who both died of old age in around the 1980s and then were reincarnated as completely different looking people. Dr. Midnight, or Charles McNider, is played by Alex Collins and is seen killed in action, as are Terry Sloan, aka Mr. Terrific, played by Dan Payne, and Johnny Thunder, played by Ethan Embry. Following Following Johnny's death, the Thunderbolt, who only appears briefly, voiced by Seth Green, goes dormant in the Purple Pen. The movie begins with a montage showing Earth 2's history all the way up to the present day and starting in World War II, showing the JSA coming together, fighting some sort of threat, and then after World War II ends, they are forced to disband and they all retire. Diana even returns to Themyscira. Diana then returns to man's world in the 1970s and her TV show plays out. And then Superman. The Christopher Reeve Superman movies and Supergirl both take place on Earth 2. Superman, now played by Tom Welling, and Kara, now played by Laura Vandervoort, both age slower. Clark married Lois but had no kids and wears makeup to appear older, while Kara just doesn't bother and she is Power Girl. The Michael Keaton Batman movies are also revealed to belong to this world. Since Batman Returns, Bruce faced numerous villains. Alfred passed away, and Bruce and Selina got married, having Helena Wayne, aka now the Huntress, in 1998. Bruce, now retired, left Gotham in the capable hands of his daughter, played by Jessica DeGao, and her sidekick, Tim Drake, aka Robin, played by Jay Curgo, who only recently debuted. And all of that is just the first 10 minutes leading into the present day. In the present day, focus shifts to Carter Hall, played by Aldous Hodge, who is visited by Jim Corrigan, aka the Spectre, played by Stephen Lobo, who restores his Hawkman memories and warns him of an impending threat known as Eclipso, urging him to reform the JSA. Eclipso is Spectre's predecessor, a corrupted agent of God. Hawkman recruits a few members of the new generation of heroes, including Huntress and Robin, Michael Holt aka Mr. Terrific, played by Eddie Gathegi, who was just inspired by the original and has no other connection to him. Then there's Al Rothstein aka the Atom Smasher, played by Noah Centineo, who is Al Pratt's grandson and inherited his powers. Nate Haywood aka Citizen Steel is played by Nick Zano, who has the exact same story. He is Commander Steel's grandson and also inherited his powers. And then there's Alicia Vikander as Hawkgirl, the Kendra Saunders version, who became Hawkgirl independently and lacks her past life memories for whatever reason. Meanwhile, Nick E. Tarabay plays Eclipso, who corrupts Dr. Fate, The Flash, Green Lantern, Power Girl, Wonder Woman, and Batman, forcing Bruce out of retirement. This leads to a sort of superhero civil war on Earth 2 between the older controlled JSA and the younger generation, who are also joined by Superman, who are not a part of the mind control group because Superman has been mind controlled too many times, and there's more evil Supermen to come in this multiverse. Eclipso's control is not total. His victims retain their personalities, which leads to long-buried resentment surfacing in battle. Eventually, however, Eclipso's hold is broken and the JSA completely unites against him. His goal was to merge the real world with the Shadowlands, his banishment realm. The heroes do eventually win, but at a great cost. Destroying Eclipso's stone, which by the way he has a stone, ends the Hawk reincarnation cycle as it's revealed that Eclipso was the one who started it, but also it erases Hawkgirl's chance of regaining past life memories, which is something that also was caused by Eclipso. Hawkman makes the ultimate sacrifice, deciding to cut off that connection, allowing Wonder Woman to land the final blow. However, Eclipso lands a final blow of his own, killing Diana. A huge funeral is held in Diana's honor, who is hailed as the world's greatest hero, and the JSA reform, except without Hawkman, who finds it too painful to be around his love, Hawkgirl, without her remembering him. Bruce also returns to retirement. Then in a post-credit scene, the Spectre and Dr. Fate discuss how Spectre was forbidden from acting directly. It's implied that this was completely intentional. The JSA had to reform to prepare for an even greater battle ahead. Next up is Blue Beetle, directed by Edgar Wright. The film explores Earth 4, first seen in a cameo in Justice League Doom. This is a world full of heroes that is hit by an alien invasion by an alien race known as the Reach, except they come as peaceful ambassadors as far as they claim. Ted Kord, played by Jason Sudeikis, previously cameoed as Blue Beetle. However, the focus now shifts to Jaime Reyes, played by a little bit of a younger Zola Mariduena, a 14-year-old suddenly chosen by an alien scarab. Leading into Jaime's origin story, a few heroes go missing, like Judo Master, played by Nut Lee, Nightshade, played by Malin Ackerman, and Ted Kord. A few months later, Jaime bonds with the scarab, gaining immense power as the next and most powerful Blue Beetle. While dealing with his family, similar
to the Blue Beetle film, Jaime is mentored by Peacemaker, played by John Cena, and Captain Atom, played by Scott Eastwood, a few of Ted Kord's old friends. Meanwhile, The Question, played by Penn Badgley, investigates the Reach independently. In a twist, he discovers that Jaime, under the Scarab's influence, has unknowingly been aiding the Reach's infiltration. As their control strengthens, Jaime fights against Earth heroes until he himself fully regains control after bonding legitimately with the Scarab. Ultimately, Blue Beetle, Peacemaker, Captain Atom, and The Question join forces to rescue Ted Kord, Judo Master, and Nightshade, and together they take the fight to the Reach, culminating in a Blue Beetle versus Black Beetle fight. Along the way, Captain Atom Judo Master dies. After the Reach's defeat, Ted retires to support Jaime. An end credit scene shows the Monitor, fresh from testing Earth 2 in an event that we did not see, declaring that they've passed and now is preparing to test Earth 4, another event that we won't see. It's more so just implied. I like the idea that in this movie at some point near the end, Ted confides in Jaime that he never liked a single one of the other heroes of this world. He never really got along with any of them, to hint that his best friend is actually worlds away. From Earth 2 to 4 and now back to Earth 5, 2016 closes with a Shazam sequel set on this world, where the Monitor tests this world's heroes, or at least that's how it starts. The film opens with the Marvel family facing their most persistent enemy, Mr. Mind, voiced by Greg Ellis, a genius Venusian worm who has been upgraded by his Monster Society of Evil, a group of interdimensional monsters who were given to him by the Monitor as the test. The battle pushes the Marvels to their limit, forcing them to unleash a combined Shazam attack that defeats the villains, but also shakes the Rock of Eternity, freeing its former champion, Teth Adam. 5,000 years ago, Teth Adam, a Kandaki slave, played by The Rock, was granted the power of Shazam to liberate his people, but abused it to rule as a tyrant. For this, the wizard imprisoned him in the Rock of Eternity. Cut to the present day, now free, Black Adam seeks revenge, effortlessly defeating the weakened Marvel family before realizing that the wizard is dead. With no real opposition, he takes over Kahndaq pretty quickly, killing many and declaring himself its ruler. Over several months, the Marvel family debates whether to intervene, finally convinced by Adriana Tomez, an Egyptian superhero wielding elemental powers. The Marvels infiltrate Kahndaq and fight Adam, but they are booed by the citizens who now revere him. Adam seduces Adriana to his side, revealing she was always obsessed with him and only just used the Marvels to get close to him. Captain Atom gives a speech on freedom, which falls on deaf ears, but Freddy refuses to back down. He challenges Adam, but is defeated and forcibly depowered and also beaten almost to death. In a destructive final showdown, Billy and Mary battle Adam and Adriana, and with the champions of Shazam clashing, it causes further disturbance in the already slightly broken Rock of Eternity, which then explodes, unleashing an army similar to the Monster Society of Evil, but 100 times larger. The champions put their differences aside to try to defeat them, but ultimately they can't, and Billy is forced to bond with the Rock of Eternity and become the new wizard, Shazam. Billy is now stuck in the Rock of Eternity indefinitely. Mary becomes the new de facto Captain Marvel, and then she and Black Adam agree to a truce. Adam could never leave Kahndaq. Mary and Freddy return to America, after having experienced things that Earth 5 had never really seen before, as this was a bit of a lighter world. It's gotten darker after the influence of the multiverse. 2017 brings us back to Earth 1 with the first Batman solo film since 2011, the first of a two-part finale for the Batman's arc in the Crisis Chronicles, Batman Caped Crusader, directed by Matt Reeves. Following Justice League Doom, where Bane broke Batman's back, Bruce retired from vigilantism. In his absence, Bane completely took over Gotham's criminal underworld and now has complete rule over it. Bruce, searching for a successor, rejects the now 18-year-old Dick Grayson, believing he lacks the darkness required for Batman, and also wanting him to forge his own path. This angers Dick, who leaves Gotham. Instead, Bruce chooses Azrael, played by Brenton Thwaites, a warrior who claims to have escaped the Order of Saint Dumas, although it's quickly revealed that he's secretly still very loyal to them. Months go by, and Azrael takes over as Batman, donning a blue and gold armored suit of his own design and enforcing brutal justice. Barbara Gordon, aka Batgirl, a major focus in this movie, tries to curb Azrael's more violent tendencies. Meanwhile, an Arkham breakout orchestrated by Bane unleashes Gotham's rogues, forcing Batman and Batgirl to battle them, while Bruce, still recovering, acts as their man in the chair, aided by Alfred and also Selina Kyle. Bruce and Selina, having reconnected after his injury, grew closer, with Selina retiring from crime. This all leads to a final battle between Batman and Bane, ending with with Azrael killing Bane and threatening the criminals of Gotham that he'll kill them all as well. With Azrael corrupting the Batman symbol, Bruce realized his mistake, as does Barbara Gordon, who quits being Batgirl for now and becomes Oracle. Unfortunately, Azrael and the Order of St. Dumas have successfully fully taken control of Wayne Enterprises and the Batcave, everything that Bruce Wayne owns. Bruce has mostly recovered physically, but has lost access to any of his resources and has been kicked out onto the street. Then, in a third act twist revealed also to Bruce, it's revealed that the Order of St. Dumas is secretly controlled by the League of Assassins, led by Ra's al Ghul, played by Alexander Siddig, who planted Azrael to take over Bruce's legacy. The final twist, Azrael's full name, he is not Jean-Paul Valley, that's not a character that exists here. This is Azrael al Ghul, Ra's biological son. Meanwhile, 16-year-old Jason Todd, played by Curran Walters, is a street kid who idolizes the new Batman and is so thankful for him having killed Bane, who terrorized his neighborhood, that he gets Batman's attention by stealing a wheel off the Batmobile and demanding to become Robin, and Azrael agrees. At Titan's Tower, Dick Grayson fully abandons the Robin mantle. When Wally West asks what they should call him, Dick remains silent, teasing he's going to be getting a new identity in an upcoming film coming out this year. For that, however, the Vertigo-based trilogy taking place on Earth 13 concludes with Justice League Dark, directed by Guillermo del Toro, expanding the magical side of the DC multiverse and introducing a few new heroes. Zatanna, played by Serinda Swan, Boston Brand aka Deadman, played by Bill Burr, and then Jason Blood, who's played by Nicholas Hoult, who then also plays or voices Etrigan. Picking up right after Etrigan's debut in the post-credit scene of Constantine, Astra and Etrigan flee a demon in hell. When Etrigan reverts back to Jason Blood, he is joined by Zatanna and Deadman, two heroes from Earth 1, which is where he originates from, searching for lost souls in hell. Meanwhile, on Earth 13, Constantine finds a portal into hell. Swamp Thing tries to stop him, but they both end up trapped in hell. The five heroes then band together, fighting briefly before realizing they need to cooperate. Each hero has a personal mission. Constantine came to save Astra, and while he does reunite with her, he has no way of taking her out of hell. Zatanna searches for her father, Giovanni Zatara, who was cursed by a villain named Mordru and then sent to hell because of it. Deadman seeks closure from his murderer, but the man mysteriously died before he can get revenge, so he teamed up with Zatanna to do exactly that. Etrigan, being a demon, simply lives there. It's revealed that there is only one hell, one heaven, and one god across the entire multiverse. However, different worlds are closer to these realms. Darker universes like Earth 13 are a bit more connected to hell, while lighter universes like Earth 5 are closer to heaven. Earth 1 is a bit neutral. The team treks through various regions of hell, pursued by demons reporting to the current ruler of hell, Neuron, played by Matthew Good. Along the way, they bond. Zatanna frees her father and sends him to heaven, only to realize it was actually a demon impersonating him, and that she was sent on a wild goose chase. He was in heaven the entire time. Deadman forgives his murderer, the only real thing that happens. Constantine and Zatanna kind of develop a bit of a bond that hints at a potential future romance. They eventually confront Neuron, but he proves too powerful, until Astra reveals that she has hidden magical abilities from being an alive soul who's been in hell for so long, and having learned from Nergal. With Astra's power tipping the balance, they defeat and destroy Neuron. Following Neuron's defeat, a portal opens to the closest portal to hell, and the heroes walk through. Swamp Thing, Constantine, and Astra belong here on Earth 13. The others, not so much. Etrigan is permanently separated from Jason Blood, who is back on Earth 1. Deadman is unable to pass on since Ramakrishna does not exist on this universe. If you don't know who that is, look it up. Accepting their new reality, they form this world's version of the Justice League, after Zatanna suggests the name. They're not actually called Justice League Dark, but they are a dark version of the Justice League. With Neuron defeated, Hell is now leaderless, and its original ruler, Lucifer Morningstar, played by Tom Ellis, seizes the opportunity. Actually though, this is not a seized opportunity, this is a direct manipulation. Lucifer orchestrated everything. He killed Deadman's murderer to make him desperate enough to come to hell. He ordered Nergal to kidnap Astra all the way back then, so that Constantine, decades later, would chase her. He implanted false memories in Zatanna to make her believe her father was suffering in hell, and then sent a demon to impersonate him, all with the goal of assembling a powerful group of magical warriors to destroy Neuron, allowing him to reclaim his throne. Because of God's decree, he was not able to act directly, but he was able to orchestrate events, and so with Neuron gone, Lucifer ascends to the throne. However, gazing into the future, Lucifer sees the multiverse coming to an end. Looking back at Justice League Dark, he declares them to be his equivalent to God's Spectre, granting them a portion of his power, setting them all up as key players in the Crisis on Infinite Earths. The sequel to the Teen Titans movie is called Teen Titans Prophecy and sees David Sandberg taking over as director, bringing his horror expertise to all the Raven-focused sequences. Jenna Ortega, 15 at the time, plays Raven, or Rachel Roth, who becomes central to the story. Now having abandoned the Robin mantle, so he appears outside of costume for the most part in this movie, Dick Grayson searches for a new identity when he begins receiving visions leading him to Rachel Roth, a girl seeking the Titans' protection from an interstellar threat, not one you would expect, Starfire. Coriander is a Tamarinian princess and Tamaran's greatest warrior who was sent to Earth to kill Rachel before she could awaken Trigon. As the Tamarinian prophecy suggests, Trigon would then destroy the entire solar system. However, Starfire on the way was captured by bandits and only recently escaped. On the other side of things is Brother Blood, played by Kevin Alejandro, who leads a cult dedicated to having that prophecy come true and Trigon's return, wielding ancient magic to summon him. Among his followers is Red X, later revealed to be Roy Harper, a former hero who became addicted to drugs and was taken in by the cult, and he's only helping them for more drugs. Cheshire is also hired by the cult and bonds with Roy, leading to them hooking up. The Titans battle Starfire as she comes to Earth to protect Raven, but Starfire eventually agrees to find another way. During this time, as she and Raven are both kind of members of the Titans, Raven and Beast Boy grow closer, and Dick and Starfire develop feelings for each other. The Titans are then caught off guard when Red X is revealed as Roy Harper while fighting the cult, giving the cult the upper hand. They capture Raven and begin the ritual to unleash Trigon. Meanwhile, Cyborg is enhanced by Tamarinian technology. Kid Flash and Donna Troy briefly date, but it doesn't work out, and Dick recalls a story from Superman, who cameos in this movie, about heroes called Nightwing and Flamebird, a scene that we see in animation, inspiring him to then adopt the Nightwing identity. Using Raven as a conduit, the Cult of Blood successfully summons Trigon, who's played by Seamus Dever. The process causes Rachel immense pain, which Trigon sees, prompting Trigon, who definitely loves his daughter, to immediately kill Brother Blood for harming her. Trigon rains fire and chaos down on New York City. The Justice League is fully occupied elsewhere, so the Titans fight back on their own. However, they kind of prove completely ineffective against Trigon. Instead, they are there to emotionally support Raven, allowing her to unlock her most powerful form, her white form, and she banishes Trigon back to his dimension. In the aftermath of all of this, Roy quits vigilante life and enters rehab, unaware that Cheshire is pregnant with his child. Starfire is told that she is banished from Tamaran because she teamed up with Raven. However, she doesn't really mind. She never loved Tamaran, and she's beginning to love Earth. She and Dick also officially start dating. The Teen Titans stand stronger than ever, preparing for what is to come. The Flash of the Lightning is directed by Matthew Vaughn and is the final chapter of the Flash trilogy, tying together Barry's journey and key Crisis Chronicles events, with the title actually being drawn from an issue of Crisis on Infinite Earths. After the events of Justice League Doom, Barry Allen builds the Cosmic Treadmill to investigate his visions of the multiverse collapsing. He maps and designates universe, traveling to Earth 2, Earth 4, Earth 5, Earth 13, meeting a few heroes along the way who have cameos. Unbeknownst to Barry, along the way he's being stalked by a mysterious speedster revealed to be a younger, inexperienced Eobard Thawne, who doesn't yet know about the events of the first film. Thawne attacks Barry on what they now designate as Earth 72, breaking Barry's universe tracking device and negating his ability to vibrate back due to Thawne's negative Speed Force energy. Now, both speedsters are stranded in the multiverse. Barry and Thawne have landed in the 31st century of this world, 1,000 years after what is known as the Great Disaster, which left the world in ruins. Now inhabited by human-animal hybrids, they encounter Commandy, played by Tanner Buchanan, who explains that the world is ruled by a ruthless dictator known as as Gorilla Grodd. Forced to team up to survive, Barry, Thawne, Kamandi, and Kamandi's crew infiltrate Gorilla City. However, Grodd's psychic powers allow him to turn Thawne against Barry, also because Thawne was itching to do so. The heroes are captured but later freed by Solivar, who leads a rebellion against Gorilla Grodd. Barry fights Grodd, losing his mask in the process. Thawne battles Solivar and other gorillas. While seeing Barry's face, he recognizes him from the Flash Museum, where Barry Allen is recorded as an ally of the Flash. Having finally learned Barry's identity, nothing is to stop him from going back in time to kill Barry when he was a kid. The heroes ultimately defeat Grodd, and Solivar takes over as leader. However, a bigger problem emerges. Grodd's headpiece was what blocked Barry's ability to vibrate back, not what they thought, which was the negative Speed Force energy. Now knowing Barry's true identity, Thawne escapes and races to kill a younger Barry Allen. Barry chases him across universes, leading to cameo-filled stops along the way. Their battle culminates in the year 2000 on what they think is Earth 1, where Barry recreates the fight from the first movie. Barry saves his younger self and allows his mother to die. Thawne loses his powers, Barry taunts him and leaves, keeping the timeline intact. However, it's revealed that Thawne isn't from Earth 1's future, but an alternate universe where the present day is the 24th century, hinting at a bigger revelation. Earth 1's timeline does not have a future past 2018. That is where things end. Barry returns to the present, only to realize that he's in the wrong universe, as his iris is nowhere to be found. The past he visited wasn't a loop, but a parallel event happening the same way elsewhere. Lost in the multiverse, Barry tries vibrating back to Earth 1, but ends up vibrating through realities, desperately trying to find his way home. Instead, he ends up in the antimatter universe, where he is captured by Mobius, also known as the Anti-Monitor. Back on Earth 1, Iris waits for Barry's return, unaware of his fate, and she has big news to share with him: she's pregnant. 2018 brings with it a few solo movies that cap off a few of the major franchises of the Chronicles. However, unlike in Marvel, the big finale is not going to start until 2019, even if it does take place in 2018. Superman Man of Tomorrow is directed by Joe Johnston and is the first Superman titled movie since 2010, doubling as a movie about Supergirl and also the Legion of Superheroes. Set in the 31st century, we start the movie off by focusing on the newly formed Legion of Superheroes, which was formed by Skylar Gazando as Lightning Lad, Amy Jackson as Saturn Girl, and Colton Haynes as Cosmic Boy, with two other recruits, which are Jesse Rath as Brainiac 5 and Chris Wood as Mon-El. The film opens with the Legion battling their old enemies, the Fatal Five, and one old enemy they previously defeated, the Time Trapper, who together proves too powerful. So with no other choice, Brainiac 5 sends the team back in time to recruit their inspiration, the one and only hero of the 21st century, Superboy. However, when they arrive in Smallville, obviously history is not what they expected. Instead of just Superboy, they find a fully grown Superman in a world filled with heroes. Clark and Kara agree to help and are transported to the year 3018. Arriving in the future, Clark and Kara meet the other members of the Legion, initially distrusting Brainiac 5 for obvious reasons. Kara is initially drawn to Mon-El at first, but eventually falls for Brainy, a romance that becomes mutual. The two supers join in with the Legion of Superheroes to face off against the Fatal Five and the Time Trapper, and then it's revealed that the Time Trapper is actually Superboy, played by Joshua Orpin. The figure the Legion once idolized now has been twisted by time. Superboy, having watched his loved ones die over centuries, left Earth in the 23rd century to search for Krypton, but then became lost in space for centuries. Along this time, Superboy, who is a lot more powerful than our Superman, did not age at all past the age of 18. Superboy's tragic backstory culminated in him discovering the Miracle Machine, which granted him time manipulation powers, but also corrupted his body, turning him into the Time Trapper. However, in this version of the DC universe, the Miracle Machine breaks after one usage, and the Time Trapper was not granted enough power to undo everything, his ultimate goal. So he seeks out another Miracle Machine, and as it turns out, there's one under the protection of the Legion of Superheroes. Supergirl and four of the members of the Legion of Superheroes fight the Fatal Five, while Superman and Mon-El take on Superboy / the Time Trapper directly, hoping to reason with him. Superman nearly convinces him to stop, but he doesn't. Superboy kills Mon-El in a final act of rage, solidifying his complete descent into madness. The heroes ultimately, however, do take him down, ending in Superboy's death. Following Superboy's defeat, Supergirl decides to stay in what is now known as Earth 50. She's in love with Brainiac 5, the Legion needs a new member, and Earth 50 needs a replacement for Superboy. Clark returns to Earth 1, but upon arrival, he finds that in the brief time he was gone, since this was not time travel, it was multiversal travel, something cataclysmic has happened on Earth. And that that leads right into the next movie, Green Lantern Blackest Night. Green Lantern Blackest Night is the fourth and final Green Lantern movie, which is also directed by Joseph Kosinski and doubles as a Captain America Civil War type Justice League event, starting with the League missing all but one of its founding members, Hal Jordan, while the team is revealed to have recruited a couple new heroes. Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner, originally Hal's Ring's first choice, but he was in a coma at the time. Ray Palmer, aka The Atom, played by John Krasinski, Anthony Carrigan as Rex Mason, aka Metamorpho, and Hartley Sawyer as Ralph Dibny, aka The Elongated Man, debuting alongside his wife Natalie Dreyfus as Sue Dibny. The previous Green Lantern movie ended with the Blackest Night prophecy beginning and Black Hand rising from the dead. That end credit scene is revealed to have happened right before the events of this movie, and he is immediately approached by the person who brought him back to life, Necron, voiced by Keith David, the cosmic embodiment of death. Because the Guardians alter the Book of Oa, Necron was able to step towards the mortal plane. He chose William Hand as his avatar to create the Black Lantern Corps to attack Earth, which is revealed to be the center of the universe and the origin of all life. Meanwhile, Necron directly assaults Oa on his own, recruiting and raising from the dead Sinestro, Atrocitus, Dexter, Saint Walker, and every other deceased member of the Green Lantern Corps. Back on Earth, the dead begin to rise, focusing primarily on the heroes of Earth so as to stop the one thing that could potentially stop the Black Lantern Corps, and this mostly manifests itself with dead villains coming back to life. They don't, however, have to bring back the actors. The ones without masks could look like zombies, and the one with masks could just be masked, and how it works is that the Black Lantern Ring returns them their costume or whatever they died in, because that would be the most interesting visually. The fight against this horde of zombies, the Justice League and Teen Titans join in on the fight, the Teen Titans being aided by Ravager, returning from the first Teen Titans movie. Hal Jordan, now closely bonded with Oliver Queen, leads the fight. With support from the Blue and Star Sapphire Lanterns, the Green Lanterns deploy 4 agents to recruit members from all the other corps. John Stewart recruits Bleez of the Red Lanterns, Guy Gardner recruits Saranic Natu of the Yellow Lanterns, who secretly plans to betray them. Kilowog recruits Indigo One of the Indigo Tribe, and Gnort is sent to the Orange Lanterns, where he discovers that only one member exists, Larfleeze, who is paranoid and greedy, attacks and kills Gnort, forcing the other Lanterns to show up, subdue, and then forcibly recruit him. The recruiting Lanterns return to Oa, unleashing a combined multi-spectrum blast that injures Necron. Necron, however, achieved his goal, taking his hidden agent, Scar of the Guardians, along with his army of Black Lanterns back to Earth. On Earth, Scar helps Necron release the Entity, the cosmic embodiment of life and the counterpart to Necron, which was kept on Earth for its own protection. Necron begins attacking it with every blow. All living beings start to weaken. Heroes begin genuinely dying, rising then as Black Lanterns, forcing the now dwindling Justice League and Teen Titans into an impossible battle, where even if they defeat someone, one of them dying means they come back as a new Black Lantern, kind of like Game of Thrones and the White Walkers. Hal Jordan, desperate, bonds with the Entity just as he did with Parallax, becoming the first and only White Lantern. Hal fights Necron alone, buying time for the Rainbow Corps, one member of each corps, to arrive on Earth. The Rainbow Corps then fight Necron as Hal diverts his attention to the Black Lantern battery. Saranic Natu, meanwhile, is blinded by vengeance, abandons them to kill Hal, allowing Necron to overpower the heroes and then free Larfleeze. Hal, chased by Necron and an army of Black Lanterns, flies right into the battery, an action that creates a second white battery, the one for the White Lantern Corps. He distributes White Lantern rings, turning dozens of what was Black Lanterns into White Lanterns. Hal then defeats Saranic Natu, fights Black Hand, and John Stewart battles Larfleeze, while the remaining heroes take on Necron. Realizing there's only one way to win, Hal, using the power of the Entity, forcibly pulls in the rings of each member of the Lantern Corps, the orange of Larfleeze, the pink of Carol Ferris, the red of Bleez, and the indigo of Indigo One, wielding every single ring in the emotional spectrum. In one final move, he flies directly into Necron, unleashing a massive blast that destroys his physical body. The Black Lantern rings all disintegrate, and the corpses collapse lifelessly. The strain of using every ring in the emotional spectrum, however, kills Hal Jordan. The rings return to their original users, while Hal's green and blue rings fly off to find a new recruit. The White Lantern rings wither away, permanently resurrecting only the recently deceased. The Entity leaves Hal's body as his final breath and flies right back to his containment. With Necron defeated, it seems that the prophecy has actually been avoided, but it actually has not. That was not the real Blackest Night. For a brief moment, death ruled over life, opening a rift between the matter and antimatter universes, allowing the Anti-Monitor to completely step through. In a twist, it's revealed that this was the Anti-Monitor's plan all along, manipulating events since the second Green Lantern movie to push the Guardians into rewriting their rules, triggering Blackest Nights, and ultimately granting him access to the Matter universe. And now, the real Blackest Night is coming, and it's not life versus death, it's matter versus antimatter, and antimatter is going to win. In a post-credit scene, Hal Jordan wakes up in a strange alternate dimension that will later be revealed to be Purgatory. He is then approached by the Spectre. Okay, so where exactly were Wonder Woman, Batman, and Aquaman during all of that? Well, let's find out, starting with Wonder Woman Fury of the Gods, directed by George Miller and acting as the most direct sequel to the Trinity movie, as it brings together the worlds of both the old and new gods, while introducing a few of the new gods' heroes. Mr. Miracle and Big Barda, played by Adam Scott and Megan Gale respectively, escaped Apocalypse shortly before the events of Trinity, leading to an entire series of events happening beforehand of Darkseid's elite going after them, reaching a new deal with New Genesis, and then returning, explaining why Darkseid's elite weren't on Apocalypse during Trinity, and also Mr. Miracle and Big Barda weren't either. After Trinity, Darkseid took a few years to rebuild Apocalypse, rally his forces, and then attack Earth in revenge, with the goal of taking over as Earth's gods. Having learned this, Scott and Barda head to Earth to warn its heroes, tracking down Donna Troy, previously known to them as Fury, who happened to be separate from the Titans at the time. Donna turns to Wonder Woman, and then Diana, Donna, Mr. Miracle, and Big Barda enter the world of the gods to warn the three leads of the old gods and rally them together. Meanwhile, in New Genesis, Orion, played by Jeremy Allen White, argues with Highfather, played by Mark Hamill, about going to stop Darkseid, deciding to go against his father's wishes and heading to Earth. With time running short, the heroes split up. Diana is joined by Mr. Miracle as she calls Aquaman for help because Poseidon can only be reached from underwater. Diana tells Aquaman everything and the dangers of his journey, and so Aquaman calls in backup, revealed to have a sidekick, Aqualad, played by Kayla MacLachlan. Diana enhances his trident with her lasso of truth, which allows it to unlock Poseidon's palace. Meanwhile, Donna and Barda go to Themyscira and are joined by Artemis, played by Natalie Dormer, to find the entrance to Mount Olympus, where they meet Zeus and then warn him. Unfortunately, Darkseid arrives to attack Mount Olympus earlier than expected, and the old gods are still entirely scattered. Mr. Miracle is asked to wait for Aquaman to return, while Diana flies towards the entrance to Tartarus, through which she treks to find Hades. Mr. Miracle is tracked down by Orion, who offers his services after a brief fight. Aquaman emerges alongside Aqualad, Mera, Poseidon, and the full might of Atlantis, and Poseidon transports all of them to Mount Olympus to join in on the fight. In Tartarus, Diana makes a deal with Hades to gain his help, and they both join into Mount Olympus. Zeus fights Darkseid one-on-one, Poseidon faces Steppenwolf, and now Hades attacks Granny Goodness while everyone else fights a bunch of parademons or other members of Darkseid's elite. While everything starts to go kind of well, Darkseid manages to get the upper hand and kills Zeus, causing a disturbance in the pantheon of gods, which prompts Highfather to intervene and attack Darkseid. Wonder Woman, however, manages to talk everyone down, creating a new deal between the three sects of gods, giving Darkseid another defeat, but not without having caused major damage. These two back-to-back defeats a few years apart lead Darkseid to the conclusion that physical strength alone will not be enough to take over the universe. He needs the anti-life equation. Because of the entire turn of events of this movie, and because she was given life by Zeus, Diana is then chosen as the next ruler of Olympus. Unfortunately, Diana made a deal with Hades, giving him her place in the line of succession, allowing Hades to become the new ruler of Olympus. And because of this, Poseidon then leaves yet again, taking the Atlanteans right back to Atlantis with him. For the time being, Diana, Donna, Mr. Miracle, and Big Barda remain on Olympus to help rebuild, while Orion is banished from New Genesis for defying orders, and so he remains as well. Diana officially offers all of them membership to the Justice League shortly after they do return to Earth, specifically to Themyscira, as they are called back as the dead began to rise. It'll be revealed that this takes place right as Blackest Night was about to begin, and that Wonder Woman and also Aquaman had their own versions of Blackest Night that we didn't see in that movie, where they fought Black Lanterns on Themyscira and in Atlantis. Batman: The Dark Knight Rises is the fourth and final Batman movie in the Crisis Chronicles, the sixth if you count World's Finest and Trinity, but the first since the first Batman movie in 2008 to focus entirely on Bruce Wayne. It's directed by Matt Reeves and serves as his final DCMU project. Bruce, now back on the streets, puts together a new Batsuit and takes on Azrael alone, defeating him in the first act, though Azrael escapes, abandoning Jason Todd. Seeing Jason as a misguided child in need of guidance, Bruce takes him in as his second Robin. Barbara Gordon has fully embraced her role as Oracle, excelling beyond her time as Batgirl. Meanwhile, Ra's al Ghul, believing Gotham is beyond saving, plans to destroy it by allying with Gotham's criminals, including the Scarecrow, Joker, recasting the late Heath Ledger with Christian Bale, and Harley Quinn. The second act follows Batman and Robin's year-long battle against the League of Assassins to reclaim Gotham. Ra's funds Joker's efforts to slow Batman down, while ordering Scarecrow to develop a deadlier toxin. Joker has always hated the idea of the Bat family, and so he goes after them, setting a trap for Selina Kyle, Barbara, and Robin, brutally beating all of them with a crowbar before leaving them as bait. Jason breaks free, but that triggers an explosion, and while everyone else escapes, he does not, and dies just as Batman arrives. Grief-stricken, Bruce tracks down Joker and nearly beats him to death, but stops right short of crossing that line. Flashbacks using de-aging technology revisits Bruce's Batman Begins style origin of being trained by the League of Assassins. Ra's offers him his place and also his daughter Talia as a bride. Bruce rejects them both before leaving the League. In the final act, Ra's attempts to release Scarecrow's toxin, but is stopped by Bruce. Exposed to the toxin, Batman hallucinates his parents' murder but fights through it, defeats Scarecrow, and ultimately even bests Ra's al Ghul in single combat, reclaiming his city and company along the way. Before dying, similar-ish to the way that he died in Batman Begins or Arkham City, Ra's reveals that Talia abandoned him years ago to form her own organization, and that she has a son, and that son is Bruce's. Determined to find that son, Bruce sets off, but is soon called back to the United States as he sees the Blackest Night on the news, prompting him to abandon his search and rejoin the League. 2019 marks the grand finale of the DCMU's Crisis Chronicles, with a two-part event both directed by James Gunn, who in this timeline was fired by Disney a bit earlier and immediately picked up by DC, given the finale of the saga. These two movies are Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 1, releasing near the beginning of the year, and Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 2, releasing near the end. The only two movies releasing this year because they are too big to allow for any other movies, and also they are one continuous story, so you can't really place any movies in between. The film opens with the origin of the Monitor, merging elements of Krona and Pariah to form them all together to simplify things into just one character. In an alternate universe, the Guardians of the Universe attempted to stop scientist Mar-Novu from traveling to the dawn of time. Despite their efforts of sending the Manhunters after him, they fail as Novu hacks them and proceeds, unknowingly then allowing the Great Darkness, the one other thing that existed at the time aside from the Light of God, to manifest by possessing him. The darkness creates a duplicate of Novu from antimatter. It calls itself Mobius. They fight, and Novu wins their initial battle, banishing Mobius to the antimatter universe. But then Novu is chosen by the Light of Creation to become the immortal Monitor, tasked with keeping his counterpart, the Anti-Monitor, at bay. Spending the next billions of years doing exactly that. Pretty recently, Novu found a drowning girl, Lila Michaels, who turns out to be superpowered and later becomes his ally, Harbinger, all on some other alternate universe, let's say Earth 112, I don't know. In the present day, the crime syndicate of Earth 3, led by Owlman, invades Earth 1 using a device powered by Johnny Quick, although it's a process that kills him instantly, honestly just because he's played by Ezra Miller, and I don't want Ezra Miller to be in this movie any more than he needs to be. Barry Allen is revealed to be imprisoned and tortured by the Psycho Pirate, whose emotion-controlling abilities render Barry completely susceptible to mind control. Under duress, Barry is forced to run, powering the Anti-Monitor's antimatter cannon. Elsewhere, Hal Jordan awakens in Purgatory and is confronted by Jim Corrigan, the Spectre. Jim explains that Spectres are replaced every 100 years, and that the Anti-Monitor strategically launched his attack during the moment of weakness. Hal is chosen as the new Spectre and undergoes brutal training, forced to sever all earthly ties before witnessing the face of God. With a weakened roster, the Justice League struggles against the crime syndicate until reinforcements arrive, the Trinity and the Teen Titans. The syndicate is defeated, but begs not to be sent back, revealing that Earth 3 is dying. Remembering Barry's warnings, the League choose to evacuate Earth 3's population, despite the syndicate's protests. The League constructs a portal powered by Wally West to transport Earth 3's people. As Wally runs, the film intercuts with Barry running, his force speed fueling the Anti-Monitor's cannon, a cannon that then fires, releasing an antimatter wave that fully destroys Earth 3 before the Justice League are able to even get there. A sliver of antimatter seeps through the portal created by Wally, wiping out the crime syndicate before it closes. The League is left in shock. Suddenly, Harbinger appears and transports all of them to the Monitor's ship, where heroes from all of the other worlds that have passed the Monitor's test, including 2, 4, 5, 13, 14, and 50, have all already gathered. Meanwhile, Hal Jordan completes his training, becomes the Spectre as Jim Corrigan then withers away. The Monitor explains that Earth is the center and origin of each universe, which is why the Anti-Monitor targets it and why he can only really recruit heroes from it. In the billions of years preparing for this, the Monitor built devices called Cosmic Towers on almost every single universe in the multiverse, and now on the worlds that passed his test. The towers arrive from the ground, blocking the antimatter wave on these worlds. The antimatter wave destroys literally every single other world, as the heroes can do nothing but watch. As for the rest of the universes, the Anti-Monitor sends an army of shadow demons, evil beings made completely out of the Great Darkness, who are sent to destroy the towers. Psycho-Pirate is revealed to be the Martian Manhunter, who after the events of Justice League Doom went off to Mars, but never arrived. Instead, on the way there, he was sucked into a wormhole created by Mobius, and arrived in the antimatter dimension, where he was then forced to wear the Medusa mask, which was created originally by the Anti-Monitor, which made it so the Anti-Monitor completely controlled him. The combined powers of the Martians and the Medusa mask is how they are able to control the Flash, forcing him to run. Picking up on subconscious clues that John Jones pushed through, Barry Allen realizes that he's the Martian Manhunter, his old friend, which will come into play in the next movie. With Hal reborn as the Spectre, Barry is now slowly breaking free from Psycho-Pirate's control, the multiverse collapsing. The stage is set for Crisis on Infinite Earths. Then, in a post-credit scene, Harbinger is revealed to be under the control of the Anti-Monitor. And finally, later that year, Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 2. Jumping to a few months later, it's revealed that Earths 4 and 14 have already fallen. The heroes are deployed across the cosmos to defend the Cosmic Towers, which need to be defended 24/7. Meanwhile, the new Spectre, Hal Jordan, recruits one champion from each world to infiltrate the Anti-Monitor's dimension and uncover the source of the antimatter waves. These champions are, for the most part, just the main heroes of each world, except for Earth 1, where Wally West, using his speed, volunteers first because he thinks Barry is somewhere out there in the multiverse and maybe they'll find him. While most heroes defend the Cosmic Towers from Shadow Demons, Batman and the Question investigate Harbinger, uncovering too late that she is a sleeper agent for the Anti-Monitor and has been the entire time. Before they can stop her, she kills the Monitor. As he dies, he transfers his last cosmic energy to Supergirl, giving her the ability to sense approaching destruction. The rest of the heroes on the Monitor ship battle and defeat Harbinger. Meanwhile, in the antimatter dimension, Barry manages to get through to the Martian Manhunter, who then removes and destroys the Medusa mask. Unfortunately, Barry already generated enough energy to destroy the entire multiverse, and there is a force field around the antimatter cannon, so the Martian Manhunter can't get in, so Barry has no other choice, and runs faster than ever before, while the champions then arrive and Wally West witnesses as Barry Allen destroys the antimatter cannon. The speed required for this, however, causes him to start to fade away into the Speed Force, although before he does, he manages to tell Wally to keep up the mantle of the Flash. He briefly stabilizes himself in reality long enough to find Iris West, using the fact that she is his lightning rod to do so, learn that she's pregnant, and then say his final goodbye before vanishing into the Speed Force. Back in the antimatter universe, Wally West becomes the Flash. Right after that, however, the Anti-Monitor arrives, overwhelming the champions, who are teleported away by the Spectre, right back to the Monitor ship. With only a few Earths left, the Anti-Monitor doesn't actually need his cannon anymore. He can personally invade each world, destroy the tower, and then unleash a blast of energy from his own body to destroy Earth. He starts with Earth 72, destroying its cosmic tower and wiping out the entire universe, killing Commandy and Citizen Steel along the way, while everyone else present manages to escape and warn the others. Supergirl senses that Mobius' next stop is Earth 50, so every hero who is not occupied by an Earth and protecting it from shadow demons comes to this world to protect it. Supergirl, however, remains on the Monitor ship as a backup plan for if they need to predict what the next world will be. Despite their effort, each world falls, a hero or two dies each time, and they are forced to retreat again and again. This all leads to one world remaining. The final battle reaches Earth 1, where Supergirl, not needing to stay on the Monitor ship anymore arrives, and the combined power of the Spectre, Lucifer's version of the Spectre, which is the Justice League Dark, as well as Supergirl with the power of the Monitor, come together to overwhelm the Anti-Monitor and the Shadow Demons, with Supergirl landing a big final blow that destroys his armor. An act that kills Kara, but leaves Mobius vulnerable enough that the remaining heroes finally land a real blow, forcing him to retreat into the antimatter universe, and closing the rift behind him. With just one world left, the heroes realize Mobius will return at some point stronger. They construct a time machine to travel to the end of time, again powered by Wally West, where he is reforming. The final war begins, an army of heroes versus the Anti-Monitor and an endless Shadow Demon army. At some point, Guy Gardner is knocked out, so Batman forcibly takes his ring for himself, wielding it with shocking skill and landing a critical blow on Mobius. While the others hold off the Shadow Demons, Earth 1's Trinity, Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman confront the Anti-Monitor by themselves. Using Diana's Lasso of Truth, Clark's Heat Vision, and Batman's Lantern Ring, they deal the final strike, annihilating Mobius once and for all. With the fight over, the heroes are finally able to grieve their loved ones. Superman delivers, however, a final speech of hope, inspiring everyone else. This hope disrupts reality itself. There was never meant to be hope at the end of time, and this triggers a chain reaction that reboots the multiverse. What was once the end of time has become the dawn of time, and a new Prime universe, mostly based off of the history of Earth 1, but with elements of the original worlds of every surviving hero in the dawn of time. A portal then opens, the heroes step through, and are each sent to different points of time in the new universe. The one and only remaining surviving duplicate is Earth 2 Superman, who, instead of stepping through the portal, requests the Spectre to take him to his wife, and the Spectre agrees. And so that is it. That's the end of the Crisis Chronicles. This new world is not shown, nor is it really explored, not until the next chapter and the beginning of the next Chronicles, whatever that would be. Taking a break for a year, beginning in 2021, first with a movie called The Flash, Fastest Man Alive, focusing obviously on Wally West, and a TV show called Stargirl, focusing on what the timeline looks like when it comes to the JSA. And so that is the end. This is the Crisis Chronicles. I really hope you enjoyed these videos, and thanks so much for watching.